Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. And as you can see, I brought a lot of friends, folks. This is a very special show on a lot of levels. First of all, we have an incredible guest. And I think he's been making the rounds. I believe this is making his second appearance on this show. To say that he has taken over or really taken the gaming world by storm would be an understatement because of the work that he's doing, not only on his own show for, of course, Windows Central Gaming, but he's been, in there and rubbing elbows with the community. And he is, someone that I think that everyone enjoys listening to, but more importantly, respects. Miles Dompierre, welcome back, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Stoked to be on. Extra special shout out for that, humbling intro. You're making me sound like a big deal here when I'm just some average schmo who gets to talk about video games, and always look forward to it. So thanks again for having me back on.
Listen, dude, what you're doing over on, you've made some tremendous advancements with Windows Central Gaming, specifically with Chatter Days. Your Xbox show on Saturday. You've had some big guests this week ahead, of course, the best locks in the business, Jeff Grubb. And, obviously you continue to bring in the big names. And, that's because you are a well-respected part of the community. But more importantly, I would even consider you not just more, I'd say even a little bit more so than just a content creator. I'd say you're part of the journalistic community and you're respected. And I got to be honest with you, you don't do things for clicks. And that is extremely a good thing that you got going. And the respect is going to come with it. And I think you got it.
No, I really appreciate that. Obviously, I make videos. I have some fun. I dive down the rabbit hole, do the conspiracy theories. I'm just consistently blown away by all the people I get to hang out with and talk to. The community's so amazing. It's weird for me to reach out to people like Paris Lilly and Jeff Grubb and all these folks and have them just be like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. So it's exciting. It's been fun. It's been cool. But yeah, I'm on the journalistic side through Windows Central Gaming. So yeah, I got to be careful what I say. I can't just go and say anything I want online, as fun as it can be sometimes.
Well, you know what it is. There is a way to have fun. There's also a way to kind of be trolly, and you stay away from that. And that's important because a lot of people like shooting stars. They want to do something to get the community's attention, and then they fizzle out because they don't really have anything to say other than something negative. And that's something you stay away from. That's super, super important, especially in your business. But listen, thank you so much for being here, brother. We're not going to have any of that negativity. We have actually quite a few big topics to get into, and I think people are really going to enjoy the banter. But let's get to this gentleman who has officially joined Primetime Gaming. I made the announcement last week. And I'm honored to say that Wandering Dutch, seriously one of the community's finest, has joined PTG on a Monday basis. Welcome, brother.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to be part of the Primetime Gaming family once and for all. An absolute, again, my honor, my pleasure. So great to be back. Great to be back. How are you doing, Boom?
Well, it's great to have you. Obviously, you are, you got your own stuff going on, so we're going to help promote that as well. We're going to try and push your channel past 1,000 subs. I don't know how close you are, but folks, listen, I say this about many people on this show. If you trust my opinion, and I think that you do, because I'm closing in on 10,000 subs myself. You gotta subscribe to not only Miles Dompierre's Windows Central Gaming, but you also got to support one of the local boys. And of course, the Wandering Dutch. All he does is support others. And I would love to see the guy tonight grab 100 new subs from people that like, oh, I didn't even know who he was. Now I'm subbing. I'd appreciate that tremendously. So get out there and do that. Next up, one of the last people to join right before Wandering Dutch. You know him as literally one of the best voices in the business. He has two shows that he does with Everborn Saga, which he's going to talk about at the end of the show. How the heck are you, Kay Asante?
Good evening, folks. Hey, Boom, I'm doing good, man. How are you guys doing today? Thank you so much. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot to talk about today. Miles, good to see you on the show. Any given chatter day, I'm usually in the chat, just hanging out and chatting with your crew. So I appreciate it. I'm a big fan. So I'm looking forward to today. This is great.
Real quick, yeah, well, it's great to have you, brother, and I can't wait to get into it. A good friends of ours of this channel and has become an official part. We have an unofficial partnership. I've been helping them, promote their new product. Upspec Gaming drops an $8 super chat, and he says, "Hey, Boom, if you don't know who Upspec Gaming is, folks, they have taken over social media, especially in the last 3 to 5 days, with, of course, their peripheral that everyone, including all the big sites, are talking about, and that is the X screen, and that's a screen that plugs directly into, of course, your Xbox Series S. And a big congratulations to them. They made their Kickstarter goal in 20 minutes when it went live. That is a big deal. And holy cow, talk about a big deal. Drawn TJ, he's a generous friend of the show, and wow, he really showed his generosity today with a ridiculous and outrageous $50 super chat. And he says, "I've been waiting all day to watch you, Boom and panel. Missed hearing you guys. The more studios and publishers Microsoft gets, the more the fans and players get to enjoy. Hope they buy Sega, WB, Asobo. This is going to be a great show tonight." Well, dude, thank you for the generosity, and of course, thank you for always supporting Double Barrel Gaming. But let's continue, of course, with the introductions. Next up, now this man is fighting a cold. His whole family was sick, but he still found a way to be here and probably snipe someone on the way here. Timba's son, what's up, brother? How you feeling?
I'm starting to get better. Don't know how many people I've been sniping, but I'm hanging in there. So yeah, it's good to be back, everybody, and have a fantastic guest with us, and our panel is graced by a real life Viking. What is cooler than that, right?
that is absolutely true. And you know what? You can't argue having a real Viking on here. But of course, we're happy to have him. And let's get next to, of course, the middle-aged gamer guy. Now, I don't know why he's not on camera. It could be because he's extremely hungover, because his Italia has beaten the UK yesterday in football. How you doing, middle-aged gamer? Are you recovered, sir?
Oh, you know what? I actually didn't drink anything yesterday. I was high on the game itself. It was a nail biter. But anyways, yes, we won. We celebrated, and it was wonderful. But and a good game, of course, to my English brothers and sisters. Anyhow, guys, I'm excited for this show tonight. I'm happy to be back. I missed last week because I was away with the family, and I didn't even know that Miles was going to be here tonight. I'm super excited about that. And speaking of Miles, unlike Miles, I do things for clicks. So there's going to be a lot of spice coming out of my mouth tonight. And I'll tell you something else. My OnlyFans page starts this week, so everybody tune in for that. Anyways, all joking aside, listen. We've
visuals,
also
man.
Well, listen,
Hey,
you're a part of the show because you do bring it you bring the fun wherever you go, but more importantly, you do bring the logic, and we're going to be getting into some big topics.
Yes, we are.
Now, we are expecting, of course, Everborn Soccer, who was in and out, and I think he might be having some sort of connection problem, so we're going to get him back.
I think he was on his phone when I saw him. I think he was.
Oh, okay. So we'll get him back here momentarily. But let's open up the show, folks. And I don't want to waste any time because we have a big show and there's a lot to get to. One of the things that seems to have taken over social media by storm is something called director's cuts. And we even saw Hideo Kojima himself get involved in the conversation, where he actually seemed a little perturbed that Sony was calling Death Stranding a director's cut. In fact, he even broke down what a director's cut actually is. And the reason why we bring this up is because Xbox has done something. The one thing, if you look at Xbox, what they have been doing, since post E3 2018, that's where the shift came. That's where we saw an incredible change in the ideology on how they want to move forward with the Xbox brand. And they have done some things to change opinions, change narratives, but they also changed gaming as we know it. And what do I mean by that? Well, besides having not one but two next generation consoles, one of which is a power price at $300 and the monster price at $500 that gives you the best and most powerful console in gaming, they have done a lot of things specifically, you know, you can easily look at Xbox Game Pass. You can easily look at Project X Cloud, now, you know, Xbox Cloud Gaming. But one of the things that I think that no one and really takes the time to sit back and appreciate and give them the proper credit for is smart delivery. Now, this is a free service. We have seen time and time again that when you turn on your Xbox or you go to social media, they're putting out something. Here's a perfect example. Did anyone expect Dark Souls 3 to get an FPS boost? No. Did anyone now, Miles, we're going to get to you right now. Did anyone ask for it? Well, Miles specifically, but what this does is it puts an even nastier light on what Sony is doing to the fan base. And I'm one of those people. Now, I have, you know, I'm looking at Ghost of Tsushima, one of my favorite games, that generation. It's right there with Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, two of my favorite new franchise, 2 IPs for PlayStation. But here's the problem. I was a little upset about the $70 price point. And then I learned, because, you know, they could not, you know, find a way to explain it easily. I had to ask the community. I as a podcaster, if I don't know, how do you expect the average gamer to know? That, you know, the normie, they're not going to know. So I found out through asking the community that I could upgrade my PlayStation 4 version for $30. And I was like, well, that's not bad. I could do 30. 70, I'm not doing, but 30. But then when I sat back and I thought about it, and I said, well, wait a second. If I'm a PlayStation 4 player, I got to pay $20 for the DLC, which is what I want. Why am I paying 30? Because of the special $10 tax that PlayStation and SIE are milking from every one of their customers. Now, this is going to become a trend because, you know, their Phil Spencer, Herman Holtz, had recently was quoted in saying, well, guess what, folks? More director's cuts are coming. And quite frankly, there is a lot. I mean, I know that Miles would be interested in it. Same thing with Joe, Mr. Babbitt, good friend of this channel, in Bloodborne, right? There's something, a rumor, right, folks? Rumor, Bloodborne The Hunters, PS5 edition, $70. Can you upgrade? Well, it's a rumor, so we don't know. But is Sony going to get you for that extra money? Yeah, you bet they are. And this is where the conversation starts to come in. We see that Microsoft. Here's a perfect example. Look at the screen. Tomb Raider. This is of the three. This is my favorite one. This is right. This is the one right in the middle. It got an FPS boost, right? It got all the stuff. Did I have to pay for that? No, that just was in there. Hey, by the way, it's in there. So, Miles, I kind of want to get to you on this. Now, this is, again, there are several supporters in the community. And I'm not going to, you know, spell out anybody. They're of course trolls that are supporting this, and they're the gamers like us that like, listen, I love Bloodborne, so I'll play through it again for the new trophies. I'll spend the money. But when you start to look at the way Microsoft is doing it, with no extra monies and no real extra work from other developers, they really have changed the conversation as to why is Sony doing this to their dedicated fan base, and why are some of us willing to take it?
Yeah, so first off, I'll start by saying I'm not really going to tell anyone how to spend their money.
Of course not.
I've made stupid gaming decisions. I bought Dark Souls again on PC because I bought it on Xbox. They wouldn't give me an update for it, so I bought it on PC so I could get the 60 FPS. So I understand where people are coming from, and like, whatever, $10, $30, whatever the upgrade cost is, that's fine with me. I want to support this. You have every right. Go ahead and do that. But there is the conversation where you can look to what Xbox is doing. I think Gears Hive Busters is the best example we've seen so far of a, I guess, director's cut equivalent on the Xbox side. They added this campaign DLC. They were selling the campaign DLC standalone. All of the enhancements were inherently free. So you got all of the upgrades for free. Right. But they were charging for additional content. That was alleviated because of the beauty of Xbox Game Pass. So it was bundled in if you were a subscriber to that. That being said, it is this kind of fine line where how does PlayStation decide what they're going to charge for these upgrades? Because it's not even consistent across the board, as we've seen with Death Stranding, as we've seen with Ghost of Tsushima. There's some discrepancies between their own internal process for charging for these upgrades. So if you want to pay for more content, DLCs have been a standard practice in the industry for a long time. That's whatever. I think inherently charging for an upgrade when you can offer it, like Xbox is doing for free, is kind of, it's whatever. In my opinion, it's a little scummy. It's a little shady to charge $10 if you want the enhancements. If you're someone who's gone out and has PS Plus, has bought a PlayStation 5, has invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. As we've seen with Xbox, there are ways to do that, and there are ways to give back to the people who've supported you there. So again, people can spend their money however they want, but it is a fine line, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on PlayStation as Xbox doubles down on smart delivery, as Xbox doubles down on these free upgrades. It's going to make PlayStation look consistently bad from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, you know what? You're onto something with that. Again, they have, it's weird, Miles. You get an opportunity to this is your job, right? You work at telling the story, right? That's one of the things that you do at Windows Central. And one of the things that have not gone well for Sony in recent weeks, I would even say months, is their ability to tell a positive story for their brand has fallen off a cliff. Now, again, I don't know why this is. Was there a changing at the guard? Because this is certainly not the dominant PlayStation when it comes to the marketing mega corporation that they were last generation. We've seen a significant stumble, and some people have suggested that this is the arrogant Sony. This is the potential PlayStation 3 arrogant Sony that we saw limp out of that triumphed out of the PlayStation 2 era and literally limped into the PlayStation 3 era, only catching Microsoft at the bitter end. And I don't know if that's true, but I can say that people remember the last thing you did. But what they also remember is what the competition is doing. And if the competition is giving gamers so much, and it seems as if Microsoft is basically giving you the shirt off their back with every move that they made while still making money somehow, and Sony is nickel and diming the heck out of its community, it does, when you compare apples to oranges, look bad for Sony. But listen, you know what? We'll come back to you, Miles. I want to get to Kay Asante because Kay Asante, we were talking both in the DM privately and our open DM. How do you want to come at this? Is this another bad look for Sony if they turn around and they start releasing director's cut after director's cut? Now, granted, I totally get if you are a PlayStation owner that's new, and let's say, for instance, you yourself missed out on the Uncharted rumored collection, right? It's supposed to contain Uncharted 1 through 4 and, of course, Lost Legacy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I would almost be jealous of you if you got a chance to play that with fresh eyes, because I'm like, good on you for that, because that's amazing. You're going to have an amazing time. But they're going to charge $70 for that. Now, I had said in a tweet yesterday, I don't remember who I was responding to. I think I was responding to him. I'm trying to, I'll pull it up and I'll tell you exactly who I responded to. But I said something to the effect that this would be an incredible opportunity for Sony to rebrand PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus, merge them together, charge a monthly price, and start dropping these director's cuts in there. Making people say, hey, for $15 a month or $20 a month or whatever they were going to charge, you get a library with all these games. You get PlayStation Plus. You can play online, and these director's cuts that are coming out, they're going day and date into that. But Sony will never allow that. SIE would never allow that because they want to get you. If you have these games, they're going to charge you $10 or $15 or even $20 to upgrade, or they're going to charge you $70. And you know what? They're some people would say they're doing it right. They're making new money with old games. What are your thoughts on this?
So, okay, so I won't take credit for this because I heard, and actually, funny enough, I was just about to say it, and then I saw him in the chat. Asa from Game On Daily. I was watching one of his shows, one of the shows, and he mentioned this, and it really struck a chord with me. So I will give credit where it's due. Asa, if you're in the chat, I think you were. I appreciate that you said this. In a vacuum, this is not a problem. This is what they do, right? This is what we are used to them doing, right? It just so happens that now they have a competitor that is doing something that we see that they don't do, which is be pro-consumer, which is, have your quote unquote best interest at heart, or so it seems.
Right.
And because of that, now we're looking, we have our eyes on Sony saying, hey, come on, guys, why don't you do that? How many times have we bought re-releases? I mean, I have 2 versions of The Last of Us. I do, because I bought it on PS4 and 3, and I bought it on PS4 because that's what they did. And I didn't even bat an eye when I did that because, hey, it's a new generation. And even though I should have, and I do generally, because I'm also a PC player. And in that world, this is hilariously egregious. It just is. It always has been, right? And it was something that Xbox used to do as well, because that's just the console space, right? But now you can tell that Microsoft is trying to bridge that gap with PC games and console games. So all those benefits that the PC gamers have taken for granted are now slowly but surely also being offered to console gamers, and that's where the back and forth seems to be coming from. So for me, I just think this is, when it comes specifically to the issue of charging you more, I think it's a symptom of a larger problem, and that's half a little bit of their aggressiveness, like you said. Like, is this the cocky aggressive Sony? I would say a bit of that, sure, but that's a cyclical thing, right? Microsoft went through that. They got their lumps, and now maybe it's time for you need to get a second job to afford this PlayStation people. Maybe it's time for them to get their lumps again. You know what I mean? Yeah, it seems like it goes and comes, right? We've had our Donnie, and now they're having their moment, and hopefully when they have their moment, everyone can come together, unite, and say, all right, y'all are messing up. And because of that, they then change their ways, which is what cyclically changes their ways, right? They don't just get up one morning and go, I think we're being bad now, we might want to change. No, everyone, you, me, Joe, PlayStation console warrior stan on internet, everyone needs to go, yo, this is just not right. Right? Yes. Just like we all did when Microsoft decided to just undo the discounts all of a sudden, just to kind of move you. The first idea was, oh, we're selfish gamers. Yeah, I'm booked for a Game Pass until 2024, but I was still angry.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Please go ahead.
To your point, yeah. What happened with this community, both PlayStation and Xbox players, when they were going to try to charge people $120 a year for gold? What did we do? We, as a unified voice, said that was wrong.
Yes. Now some may have done it for ulterior motives, because hey, here's a chance to prod the Xbox. Okay, but still, at the end of the day, we all agreed that this was egregious, right? And in doing so, that changed. And even on the PlayStation side, when they all came together, we all agreed that it was egregious. And now I can still download some cool RPGs on my Vita, which sits over there somewhere, right? So It's not to say that it's impossible. It's just to say that until we all agree that this is a problem, it won't change. And to me, this is a symptom of a larger problem. You were just talking about, all these upgrades coming and how much they're charging. That's just one side of the coin. I am now super excited to play what's coming for Ghost of Tsushima, but I'm also deathly afraid to go through that process. I have gone through it and failed with the Avengers. It took me about 20 hours to actually play the Avengers. I have the PS5. I have the PS4 version on my PS5, but it took me 20 hours to play the PS5 version. Almost the same with Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Why is that? You guys don't understand. So real quick, let me get a little geeky on you real quick, okay? Difference between Xbox and PlayStation is when Xbox downloads a game, they give you the latest version of the game from jump.
Yes, correct.
It's yours.
Yes.
When PlayStation downloads a game, they give you the base game and then give you every patch, piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. And of course, when you're upgrading to the PS5 version of a game, the latest patch is what gives you that upload ability to save upload your save, right? So let's say you haven't played a game in a couple months and maybe you're behind on some patches, or you uninstalled it because you knew the new one was coming out. Yeah, now you got to re-download it, get all the patches up to date so you can upload your save, and then do the same thing on the PS5, get all your patches up to date so you can download your save there. This is what happens on PS5. It's happened to me on Avengers, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I expect it'll happen to me on Ghosts.
Yeah.
This is a symptom of a larger problem. If you folks out there don't say, hey guys, this is a problem, maybe spend less time focusing on, giving me stuff I don't need to charge me $10 extra and focus on your infrastructure. That's where the focus needs to be. Everyone should be united in, hey, you want to charge me 10 extra bucks? It's not cool because PC players don't have to deal with that, but I'll accept it if my save is just saved, as it always is, like it is on my Xbox. Like when I turn on my phone and it's there, and I turn on my Xbox One and it's there, and I turn on my
you know what's funny? It's funny you say that because I just had that happen. Perfect example, Tomb Raider. Now I haven't played Tomb Raider on my Series X, so I moved it over, right, because I wanted the upgrade in visuals. And you know what it simply said? Syncing your save data.
That's it. That's it, because Microsoft built the infrastructure. There's the lane for game saves. That's it. It's there, whether you built it during the 360 era or you're building it now. Even if it was an OG Xbox game, once they upgraded it and brought it to backward compatibility, they put the save where it belongs. So if they release 1 million Xboxes from now until the end of time, I know that when my children log in and they want to play that old game, my save will still be there. Because that's just the way it's built. I was talking to Everborn about the same thing. And my boy, Marshano, cheap plug, who I interviewed last weekend.
Which was a great interview. People need to go.
A good developer who was doing that. Yes. Yeah, he was telling me when they were building that, nobody knew that this was going to happen. Nobody knew that they were going to one day build a game system, a game service that will synchronize. No, they just built it infrastructure correctly so that anything that comes on top of it kind of synchronizes and they all flow together. So long story short, what do I think? I think they're a bit greedy. I think they're focused solely on the cash, and I think they will continue to do so, just like Microsoft will, unless we, as we, the body, the politic, that's right. Don't be that single player gamer. I'm a selfish. I love my single player gamers too. But at the end of the day, when they're charging you $70 for a game they shouldn't be, I still feel for you. And everyone should get up in arms and say, hey, you want to charge me the $70? Make it worth my while. Fix your infrastructure. That's what I think.
Well, listen, before we get over to Wandering Dutch, I got to do a couple of shout outs. First of all, One Bad Mother's in the chat. Now, if you don't know who this gentleman is, he is a writer for, of course, Xbox Era. Now, Xbox Era, John, and of course, Special Nick, they run a podcast weekly. It's one of my personal favorites. I'm going to be honest with you. And I might sound like maybe a little biased here, but in 2 weeks, I'm going to be a guest on their show, which I cannot wait for. Me and Nick have been trying to work together. He's in Australia. I'm in New York, trying to get him on here. So I figured, you know what? Let me, thanks to One Bad Mother, I said, you know what? Reach out to the guys and say, listen, I'll guest on your show and help promote you. And I just want to guest and hang out with you guys. And I got my wish, and I'm going to be on their show on the 24th. We also got to say hello to Asa from Game On Daily. Now, him and Gaz, these are two really cool dudes, but more so, Game On Daily is an incredible site that more people need to subscribe. People got to check out there. Look, it really is like salt and pepper with these guys. And I don't mean the rap group either, because Asa is, he's the
It's more like Gaz's minder.
Yes, he is the anchor that keeps Gaz under control, and Gaz is the crazy salty one. So they really do work great with each other. I was on their show a couple weeks ago. We had an absolute blast. Definitely check them out. And of course, Windows Central Gaming is here. I'm not sure who it is, but what's up, man? Thank you. They're supporting Miles Dompierre here, so thank you for that. But Wandering Just, let's get your general opinion on, could this eventually become a PR nightmare for Sony if they continue down the road of these director's cuts and looking to clobber the player base, whereas Microsoft is literally giving the shirt off their back. Is this going to be a PR nightmare?
The longer the generation goes on, yes. I think at the moment the thing that works in Sony's favor is that the vast majority of their fan base is very much the casual section. So you've got 120 million plus people on PlayStation 4 that have been with PlayStation since PlayStation really was an inception. That's the thing that works in their favor. It's a household name that everyone has come to know and appreciate over the years. And I spoke about this in our private chat the other day, and I speak to quite a lot of new owners of PlayStation 5s that ask me, because they know I do things within the gaming community, that ask me about certain things, not knowing really just how much I know about this stuff. But one of the things I got asked about the other day was I was trying to upgrade Call of Duty to the newest version on PlayStation 5 when I downloaded it, and they said I had to pay £5 to play it. I was like, oh, that's an upgrade fee. But why do I have to pay that? Well, that's just because PlayStation says you have to pay that. I couldn't tell you. Like, that's not something I would like, especially when it comes to Call of Duty. That's not my bag anyway. But it's then I had to go on and explain about kind of all the next gen upgrades that you get for PlayStation and the fact that they need to be purchased to be able to get the new features. And specifically for him, he wanted to use the rumble triggers and the haptic feedbacks and everything like that. Now, the major problem they've got with these director's cuts isn't primarily that they've got upgrades to enhanced resolution or frame rates or anything like that locked behind this stuff. The thing that's locked behind it is the thing you bought the PlayStation 5 for in the first place, and that's the haptic triggers and the 3D audio. So when you've got those things that are now built into these director's cuts that are being held back from you, or at least bundled with DLC, as you've seen with Ghost of Tsushima, where you can't buy the upgrade unless you buy the director's cut, or at least the DLC.
And Ghost even has the language pack. I didn't mean to cut you off. They have the language packs also hidden behind the DLC paywall.
Yeah, which is a very strange one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll become a problem when more of the casual side take notice. Now, the hardcore minority are just that. It is a minority of their fan base, as is the hardcore minority for Xbox fan base. But I think Xbox got a little bit of a different fan base as it is anyway, because I think Xbox as a whole are a little bit their fan base are a little bit more, I wouldn't say more on the hardcore side, but they're a little bit more refined because it is it's much more of a niche console, as it's been kind of garnered over the 20 years. There's around about 50 to, I mean, they've got 100 million across PC as well, but an Xbox Live account can be anything. I mean, you can create an Xbox Live account to play the smallest of games on a Windows store, as Miles probably appreciates there. I think you probably have to have one for solitaire these days. But I think it's just the difference in fan base. And again, PlayStation's just that household name that's been around since day dot. So the issue with upgrades, etc., will only become more apparent to them when more and more of these people upgrade to the next generation from the previous platform, and they try to get this next version of a favorite game that they've got, or they've only just bought Ghost of Tsushima, and then they see another version of that with a PlayStation 5 symbol on. They think, oh, what's the difference? And then they go into a store and they try to tell them that, oh, well, the difference in this one is that there's an extra island and you can use the triggers that you've bought the PlayStation 4 in the first place. Yeah. I mean, other than just normal DLC, like that's £30 or $30 for a little bit of DLC. Now, again, as you might have seen today, CD Projekt Red haven't been in the best of lights over recent months, but they're still pumping that out for Witcher. Yes. Next gen upgrade on both platforms is free and DLC free.
Yeah, that's in conjunction with the Netflix show, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but as expected, EA, after their initial trouncing by Xbox, etc., when they said they weren't going to charge for upgrades, FIFA 22. Oh, by the way, you have to purchase the Ultimate Edition to get the free upgrade. Otherwise, then you can purchase the upgrade if you buy a standard edition for FIFA 22. It's like, EA being EA again.
Yep.
But they won't change. Unfortunately, EA have been to court and everything over silly things like this for years on end, charging through the teeth for loot boxes and whatnot. And I don't think they're bothered what anybody thinks anymore. But Sony, who actually have to sell physical products and don't just rely on the FIFA namesake, they certainly need to do some kind of in-house changes to that. I mean, like I've said, if you're going to be charging for something substantial like DLC, that's fine. Extra islands, characters, etc., no problem whatsoever. And again, we could be spoiled. We could be acting a little bit entitled by saying this, but when there's another platform that are pushing the boat out now and saying no, all of these enhancements are free, there is no charge for that. Yes, we'll charge for DLC. That's a different story. You've got one competitor that's really trying to just give you the best version on the platform you're playing, and you've got another one that's going to give you the best version if you're paying for the platform that you want to play. So
yeah,
that's another marketing style altogether, and it's not great for the consumer. And like I say, it's the casuals that are going to have the confusion. And we could swing it round again to the issue that they're having with save games. Now, if you're a casual player, and I'll just cap this off, but if you're a casual player and you've switched to a PlayStation 5 and already sold your PlayStation 4, you have lost all your game saves.
Yes, that is. You know who that happened to? And he is one of the smartest dudes in podcasting. Just joined Defining Duke. Our good brother, Lord Cognito. He didn't know that some of his saves that he had to physically move them over, and he lost it.
Randall Thor as well.
What's that?
Randall Thor as well.
Randall and Randall Thor is the man with $1 million. I mean, the guy has $1 million game score, or probably almost double that now. If he didn't know,
he didn't know either.
It's a scary disposition on how Microsoft is doing it. Like I said, perfect example of that is I started playing some older games because yes, Xbox people apparently play old games to record some footage, and I love Tomb Raider. I didn't have to do anything. I moved it over to the hard drive or to the memory stick, and it just said syncing my data. I didn't have to do anything, and there it was exactly where I left it off. And I think the last time I put on this game was 2019. PS, by the way. But let's get in Tempest's son here. Tempest, this is going to become a problem for Sony, and I think the only way that we can, and I say we as gamers because I'm a PlayStation player as well. I own all of their first party stuff. That's why I own the console. We have to tell Sony no. And how do you tell Sony no? Well, you don't buy these director's cuts. And I'm actually kind of on the fence of whether or not, as much as I loved Ghost of Tsushima, do I drop the $30? Because I'm giving them $10 for the PlayStation 5 upgrade that we see Microsoft give you for free. And it's I become a part of the problem if I spend the $35 after tax. What are your thoughts on this, Tempest?
I can't really add too much to what everybody else has said. From my point of view, I just think it's a little, I don't know what the right word is, foolhardy, arrogant, whatever you want to say. I feel like Sony is trying to operate as if Xbox isn't making consoles and games right now. Like, I don't, Xbox is doing things so different than the other two. And it's catching steam. It's picking up in popularity. People are starting to realize that, or at least Microsoft is, when you put customers first, and Phil Spencer says it all the time, and I actually kind of believe him. He sits there and says, we want to put the gamer in the center of everything we do. That's how I feel when I play in that ecosystem. And how Sony can't see what they're doing and not try to replicate it at all. If Xbox wasn't doing what they're doing, of course Sony could go about their business, and this is what they would have probably have done. They've been doing stuff like this for years. The difference is now there is somebody else doing something different, and they're just not changing the model. They're not changing their business model at all. And normally that, like I said, that would be okay. But what's happening is people are starting to catch on, and they just feel like they're not being treated right. First, it's $70 games. Now it's this trend where they're not just moving into sequels. First, they're giving you an expansion. Now, I'm not a game developer, but what I think happens is they dedicate a small section of their team to making an expansion or a standalone DLC, if you will. And while they have another portion of the team start to work on the sequel, right? And I can't speak personally. Like Lost Legacy, I think was probably one of their better ones that they've done. I know Miles Morales was really high quality, but very short. For $20, I don't know exactly what you're getting with Ghost of Tsushima. They say a new island. Is that island big? Is it the size of a big encampment? Like what is on that island?
That's a fantastic point, because some people are asking, and I don't think the answer has been is quite clear. Is the game going to be, or this new DLC, the size of something, let's say, like Lost Legacy?
Right.
Like Lost Legacy. Listen, folks, I'll say this right now. If you have PlayStation Plus and you somehow missed out on that, that's probably one of my best favorite pieces of Uncharted game that you have to play. It was absolutely fantastic. So if it's that size, then it's not a bad deal. If it turns out that it's maybe 5 or 6 hours for $20, some people will argue, say, well, that's like a movie. I'm getting 2 movies for the price, and I'm playing through it. As again, like Miles said, I'm not going to tell you to spend your money. I'm not going to tell you, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I sit on here on this podcast, and if you've been listening a while, I give Sony a hard time, and that's just because I think one company's doing it better than the other. But I'll keep that same energy. The new expansion for Gears of War was $20 if you chose to buy it, and it was only like a 3-hour experience. The difference is if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you get it for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's that option there. And so no matter what way you try to slice it, it's you just pay more as a customer for literally everything you can think of doing over on that side. Eventually more and more people are going to catch on. Wandering Dutch just said it. It is the more known brand. They're up there with the Nintendo, where your parent, even if you're playing an Xbox, could say, turn that PlayStation off. They don't care. They just it's one for one in gaming. Nintendo and PlayStation right now they're both 1-1. It's like to a lot of people, that's gaming, and that's going to take a while for that to change. And I think it will eventually change, though. Pretty soon, a parent is going to somehow, some way, hear through the grapevine, or have their friend tell them, their other parent friend, whatever. Maybe they'll get into it. They're going to know about Game Pass. Pretty soon, Game Pass is going to be what Netflix is to movie streaming services. And that'll be the hook, and that'll be eventually when everything changes. And that's why I said in the beginning, I think it's foolhardy for Sony not to look what the competition's doing and try to emulate it at the very least. Like, can you imagine, Boom, how much goodwill they would get if right now they were to release a patch for Bloodborne, just like they, Xbox updated Dark Souls 3.
Well,
Bloodborne's an exclusive,
Yeah, well, the rumor is that it's called the Hunter Edition, but it's a director's cut.
See, I know. So we're back to here again. I just think it would mean the world. I mean, Digital Foundry's made huge videos on a mod or like kind of a hack that somebody did to get Bloodborne working on the PS4 at 60 frames a second, even though it was like low resolution. It didn't matter. It was 60 frames a second, so it worked great. Just like little things like that they could do, but we are getting none of that stuff from them. I mean, I almost, at this point, I know I give Sony a lot of crap, but I almost like hate to see it. I almost feel bad for them. It's like there's really no good news coming out from that side. So it's kind of depressing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so they've got great content, but they just do silly things that they don't need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, if it wasn't for the people like like Miles Dompier at Windows Central and the rest of those at Windows Central or at PS Trophy Room, etc., that point out these issues, then the casual players and the people searching the internet wouldn't know about these problems in the first place.
Right.
I mean, the hardcore like us that are on Twitter and talking about gaming 24/7, we know about these problems all the time. So unfortunately, it's left to us to tell people about these things that don't otherwise know this. Outside of Twitter, this is nobody knows that these issues exist. And again, if it wasn't for
so what you're saying, Dutch, is that their saving grace is the fact that that Avengers was such a bad game, because that was the game that was going to bring the casuals, and since it was such a crappy game, nobody actually played it. If they did see it, then this would be a problem.
Well, I am going to say, you mentioned casuals, Kay Asante, and to Tempest Sun's point, he made a mention of something that's super important. And it is a part of the conversation. We are moving into an era in digital content where the normies know what a Netflix is. They know what a streaming service is. They know that if they want to watch Picard season 2, they got to get Paramount, right? So follow me here. Gaming has become almost as mainstream as film, at least in my opinion. And I think I think that I'm onto something with that. As soon as these same normies find out that a game is $70 to purchase, but this new Xbox Game Pass thing, I could play on my phone, like I could watch a movie on my phone, or I can play on my tablet, like I could watch a movie on my tablet, and potentially by the end of the year, I can go right over to my TV, grab my wireless controller, and play a game just like I could go play a movie. And I think that is where the advantage is for Xbox and why these moves are going to hurt Sony in the long run. But I want to bring Mag into the conversation. But Mag, before I do, let me thank Viper XT, generous friend of the show. He not only drops an incredible $10 super chat, but it's what he says that has become so relevant. By charging $10 for the upgrade, Sony is basically charging you again to use the PlayStation 5 features you already paid for when you bought the system, controller, and headset. And I think everyone has said that. And I think that is a real freaking problem. Now, Miles made mention of something that I think is so relevant to, let's just say, Ghost of Tsushima versus, I don't know, Gears 5. Gears 5, you got the upgrade for free to the Series X, right? You got the FPS boost. You got all the bells and whistles with the graphics. And if you wanted and you didn't have Game Pass, you could buy the upgrade for $20. I mean, buy the DLC for $20, right? Well, if you already had Game Pass, you got that for free. Versus now we have to look exactly over the border and say, well, wait a second, $30. I have to pay for the PS5 upgrade and $20 for the DLC for $30. And there's no other way to do that because they don't have a Game Pass service on there. People are going to start putting these 1-in-1s together and making two. What are your thoughts, Mag?
Listen, the more we talk about this and the more I think about this, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I should have waited for a PS5 director's cut. Never mind the games. You know what I mean? Jesus. But anyways, in all seriousness, I brought this up before in one of our other
shows. Might feature the SSD.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, and they'll charge $50 more like the Nintendo OLED. Anyhow, something interesting that I mentioned on another show, not another show, on this show, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Phil Spencer came out, I think it was 2018, 2019, maybe it was 2019, and he was talking about, it was the last live E3, I believe, and he was saying, and all your games will carry forward, and all next-gen upgrades will be given to you, and then he hit the punchline, and he went, for free, and nobody said anything. No reactions, there wasn't even a clap, there was just kind of like, okay. I don't think people realized how impactful that statement was. Now that you fast forward 2 years, now you understand exactly why that exact line that he said was so impactful, is because I think he knew exactly what Sony's game plan was going to be. I mean, maybe not exactly, but at least had an inkling of what they were going to be doing or what kind of business model they were going to be doing moving forward. He knew. I think he knew. And by saying for free, and even stuck his finger out right in front, like just to emphasize the point. And like I said, it didn't have any impact. Well, guess what? Now it does. Now we see what happens. Now you're seeing the results of direct competition, right? And then you look at something else. Like, for example, you want to take over this the situation. Remember, it happened, in January with the Xbox Live debacle? Okay?
Yes.
What happened? We bitched. We complained.
Dude, this is one of those instances where gamers, both PlayStation and Xbox, and more importantly, the gaming media came together for one loud voice. And what happened within 24 hours? It was changed.
Right. Now, this is why I brought that up. It was changed. They listened. How long have we been hearing about this situation? For about a week now, give or take? Has Sony said a word?
No.
Not a goddamn word. Not a word. What that says to me, at least from my end, what that says to me is a disrespect to the consumer. You clearly know that people are talking. Push Square, for Christ's sake, one of the Sony-led media sites, are criticizing the living hell out of them. People on Twitter, everybody. What? They're not deaf. They're not blind. They know that this is happening. Maybe they're trying to maneuver or try to pivot or something like that. But they easily could have fixed this really quick. They did not, which leads me to believe, guess what? They don't care. As long as you pay, they don't care. Now, the other thing is, I'm thinking about this director's cut trend that's starting to happen with Sony. You've got 1 turned into 2, turned into 3 with this Uncharted thing, turned into maybe 4 with this Bloodborne thing. We don't know how many are coming out. Okay, and I'm starting to think about it, and I'm like, wait a minute, this seems rather odd. Why are they doing this? I got 2 answers, at least in my mind. I got 2 answers as to why I think they're doing this. 1, riding off their past glories, right? As they're, it's going to take them a very long time to prepare, obviously, their games that are coming up for this generation. Uncharted 5's not coming out next year. We're still going to be talking like 2-3 years from now, most likely. Naughty Dog's big game probably won't come out to the end of the gen entirely. Yeah. And so like these games are going to be a ways off. So I think they're going to be doing that in order to plug in these spaces, right? For people who did not invest in those games, because let's face it, only about 15 to 18% of people, PlayStation owners, bought their first-party games. Even their best-selling games, which was Spider-Man and God of War, were still first-party games. Were still didn't even crack 20% of the actual market that owned the PlayStation 4.
That's correct.
So that being the case, maybe they're trying to reach out again and trying to get more people onto those. Okay, fine, I get it. I understand that. But I think that what they're doing is they're plugging in these empty holes because they certainly don't have as many. I'm not saying they have none, but I'm saying I don't think they have as many third-party deals and all kinds of moving and shaking that Microsoft is doing with the whole Game Pass situation. Right? So there's that. And another thing, I know some people still thinking Horizon Forbidden West, it might not come out this year, guys. Let's face it, it might not come out this year. They didn't say it was 100%.
Right.
Okay, so there's a possibility that it may not come out this year, and they're trying to bolster their fall lineup in order to fill in those spots to combat what Xbox is doing this year. Because Xbox is releasing a ton of content in this fall. Now, the other thing is you can't ignore the fact that Sony's starting to look a lot like Nintendo these days.
Yes.
Okay, they're going after that business model. And what has Nintendo been doing with this Switch? With all the Wii U games that failed, and I don't mean they failed because they were bad. It's just nobody bought them because nobody had a Wii U. Okay, or at least very few people bought a Wii U, right? So what did Nintendo do? They slapped a Switch sticker in front of the Wii U sticker. Okay, what did they do? And then it turned into like you guys remember Street Fighter 2? And then all of a sudden they had 18 different versions of it. And then it was called Street Fighter 2 Ultra Triple Combo Hyper Edition. Then what did they do for the Switch? They released Mario games that were on the Wii U. And what did they do? Now they're called Super Mario Brothers 3D Wii U Ultra Switch Edition. And then they charged you $80 for it, at least up here. Okay, or $90. And with tax up here, it's over $100. Now, that's speaking of which, that's another thing I wanted to bring up very briefly. I've said it ad nauseum, a million times about the prices. I don't think a lot of people in the United States truly appreciate their dollar value compared to the rest of the world. Now, what I mean by that is that some people saying, it's just $10. $10 for you because you happen to have one of the strongest dollars in the entire planet, because you are a superpower. The United States is a superpower, basically the world leader. Okay, your dollar's the strongest. Do you know what that $10 is up here? It's 17.
Whoa.
Okay, so now, and what did I tell you guys about the PS5? PS5 games in Canada are $105.
Wow.
Not 70, 105. And our cost of living is the same as yours. Actually, it's a lot more up here. But anyways, the thing is, so we're not making as much, right? Because we get the free healthcare and all that nonsense, whatever, right? So anyways, besides that, the point is that this Ghost of Tsushima situation is $50 in Canada. Okay,
Wow.
and the thing is, now I know Miles said something a little bit earlier about saying, people can spend their money however they like. And I agree with him 100%. However, Sony has not given me the option to spend my money the way I like.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I want to stop you right there. And
Yes.
You know what? We should have known this. What happened when Spider-Man Miles Morales launched with the PlayStation
I already knew,
5?
Boom.
Right?
I
What
already knew
happened?
this was coming.
They said you can only get the 2018 upgraded PlayStation 5 version of Spider-Man if you spent the $76.11 for the deluxe edition. Now, I did that because I really love Spider-Man. And you know what I realized after it? Not only didn't I play Spider-Man, I was a part of the problem, and I basically opened the door for Sony to do this.
Boom, funny you mentioned that. A couple of things here. You were talking about maybe I'll spend the extra $30, $35 in New York, okay, for this upgrade. For an extra $5, you could buy Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Yes.
Okay, or $10. Okay, so for $10 extra, you could buy an entirely brand new IP, which looks magnificent. I'm definitely on board to buy that. I think
that's
the
a day
game
one
looks
for me. It's one of my most anticipated games of 2021.
Exactly. And the thing is, now here's another thing. Tempest said this. This is what happens, by the way, when you're sixth in line. When you hear everybody talking, all of a sudden all these points start coming to my head. Tempest said something about the Lost Legacy situation and being worth it and all that, right? It's not going to happen. Okay, the Ghost of Tsushima DLC ain't no Lost Legacy. You know why? Because if it's anything past 6 hours or 5 or 6 hours, even 10 hours, guess what? They're going to make that into a whole game, charge you damn near full price. You know why? Because I got friends. I haven't bought it yet, okay? Specifically, and you guys know the reason why. I haven't bought it yet because I refuse to, because I know guys who've platinum Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Nothing against the game, nothing against the developers, because the Sony first-party studios make the best games on the planet, okay? They really do. You can't ignore it. You can't deny it. They pretty much always win Game of the Year. Their games are unbelievable. And I'm not saying anything about them. But Rift Apart, I know guys who platinumed that in 16 hours and played through it twice in 16 hours. That's you know what I'm saying? So if it was a substantial DLC, that would have been sold as a $50 standalone in my eyes. That's what I think they would have done.
That's why it's $20. Is probably around 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one island. You played the game. I played Ghost of Tsushima. And the fact that I paid full price for that game last year on my PS4, I'm not going to pay that extra $50 just to get a couple of bells and whistles. And the thing is, I invested in their hardware. Okay, the hardware is sitting in my house, staring at me as we speak. They advertise those features. Those features are in my hand, and you won't let me use them.
Right.
Yep.
That, to me, is egregious.
I agree.
Okay, and that is my problem. You've taken away the option of the customer. That is where I have the issue. I don't have issue with DLC. You know what I mean? I buy, when I get an Assassin's Creed, whether it doesn't matter which one, okay? Odyssey, Valhalla right now. I buy the DLC because I love their DLC. The Witcher, I got their DLC. I love the DLCs in those games. Okay? But I'm able to buy those piecemeal, however I want. If I want to buy the season pass, buy it. If I want to buy the one expansion, I buy it. The fact that I can't access the features that I paid for when I invested in your hardware, and you hide it behind this, and I have to pay $50 so I can get adaptive triggers and rumble and whatever the hell else, blow in the controller so the leaves go flying all over the screen. I don't know what they're doing, right? I have to pay $50 for that? Not on my watch. Not happening. And I'm not paying for it, and nor am I going to invest in any of that bullshit, baloney. Okay? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You give me the complete package. You give me the game with the features that I paid for and invested for. Otherwise, you ain't getting a penny out of me. The only time you get a penny out of me is on Black Friday and Boxing Day. Okay? And then I'll pay half price for it. Look at right now. MLB The Show is 40% off. Okay? I mean, I'm not going to buy it because I play it in Game Pass, but I'm just saying. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, by Black Friday, I'll be spending $40, $30 on Rift Apart. Or if Rift Apart comes out in PS4, you watch how fast it gets, discounted. All right? So, anyway, the thing is, I don't like this. I don't like the way that this is going. And the thing is, you could say, oh, well, it's their business practice. Well, guess what? It's archaic and it's now out of touch because every single other form of media that we consume, whether it's movies, whether it's music, whether it's audiobooks, okay, or now video games, are consumed on a subscription basis. They do not have to go that. They don't have to go that route. But the problem is, if you're standing out there and you're still doing that while everybody else is doing this, you're going to be the next blockbuster.
I absolutely agree. You know what? Before I bring in, of course, two people that jumped in at the last minute, they got here a little bit late, but we want to welcome in here. Of course, Everborn Saga, welcome back, brother. And of course, Cybernox, we'll get your opinion at the end. But One Bad Mother drops a very generous $5 of chat and says, thanks for the Xbox era shout out earlier. Boom. Would have responded if I wasn't facing the Abyss Watchers at 60 FPS at the moment. Miles can explain it. I don't know what he means, but what I want to find out, Everborn, you've been hot and bothered by this. You know, you own several businesses. You are the creator of the Everborn Saga, so you understand how important it is, whether you're big or small, to put your best foot forward, where it seems as Microsoft is doing that in spades, and Sony is not. Sony is not doing it, and it seems as if the, what we have feared about the $70 situation is going to come to fruition much sooner. What are your thoughts on all of these director's cuts coming out and the way that they are literally nickel and diming the community?
Well, I'm going to take I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I do agree with everything everyone said, but I want to just present some things from the other side of the aisle. Just because if I didn't, I'd be repeating what everybody said because I agree with everybody. So the thing is this, Sony does not have the wallet that Microsoft has. I think we can all agree with that, right? And they do have these huge $100 million budget games, right? And they need to make money, right? Now, the thing is, we can say that what they're doing is sort of anti-consumer, and why don't they have a cloud save solution, and as though we take those things as their standard, but really, it's only Microsoft that's doing these sort of good things, right? It's like Nintendo never gets any of this smoke, right? So everyone else in the gaming industry is kind of doing these things because Nintendo is way worse than what Sony's doing. So I think I want to more praise Microsoft for what they're doing than to say Sony is doing this and it's terrible. The best thing to do, because I always say this, you vote with your wallet and you let the market sort it out. Now, all that being said, it could be worse because they could have done what you said earlier, Boom, and just packaged this thing as a standalone game. And I'm glad they're not doing that. That said, what we're really talking about is $10 because we're saying there's $20 for the expansion and then $10 for the PS5 features. But it's not really all the PS5 features because they already did the 60 FPS update, correct?
Yes.
Right? So what exactly are you paying that $10 for? Somebody help me.
Probably the haptic triggers
Rumble
used.
trigger.
You're definitely getting the lip sync situation.
3D audio.
The 3D
3D
audio.
audio.
Yeah.
Which they advertised, by the way, when they launched the console.
3D
Remember that?
what? 3D audio.
3D audio. Yep.
So the
3D
game
audio.
works with surround sound. Is that what we're
It
saying?
works with standard, and they're upgrading it. And that upgrade you'll have to pay for. Also,
Yeah, to use
the
Tempest-
native language
use the Tempest
pack.
3D.
Yeah,
Tempest 3D audio.
but how is that different from Dolby Atmos?
So imagine, Everborn, think of it this way. your PC, right, which you've been gaming on, it's great. You've been gaming on it. It's wonderful. Now the game has a new graphics pack, and Steam wants you to pay $10 extra before you can get the benefit of using that hardware that you paid for. That's what's going on here. That's what it is.
No, but I'm saying you already got that benefit because they already did the 60 FPS update. So is this
no.
You paying for
you
textures?
have hardware. You have hardware that has features. They refuse to let you use those features until you pay extra. Those
That's
features
correct.
are the
That is the best
crazy
way to put it.
controller rubbly blah 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 that they kept putting into the marketing.
For
they didn't say under
feedback.
That's right. They should have put it underneath the fine print in every commercial that says, make sure you know you're going to pay $10 extra to get your controller to rumble.
See, I think you all are forgetting one very important key that I think justifies the $10, and that is the Japanese lip syncing.
Oh, wow.
And that justifies the $10? Oh boy, I was looking forward to seeing how you thread that needle. Come on, man.
Okay, but more seriously, and I put out a tweet about this. I think it went over quite a few people's heads. The Witcher is doing this crazy next gen update, and it's all included for free. That's on top of the other free large, I don't know how many hour updates they've done for the game. So my question is, are we all going to get together and just PayPal CD Projekt Red $10 for those updates?
Yeah, we're all going to throw them $10. Yeah.
Since we want to support developers, or are we really only saying that this $10 asshole tax, as I like to call it, are we only supporting that because it's Sony doing it? So my main points here, because I know that we got a big panel, so I won't hold everybody up too long, is it is not just Sony doing this. I think Microsoft is the outlier here and not Sony, because Nintendo has been gouging us for decades, right?
And they made an exclusive of their own game. They remember that game that they released for a limited time and then stopped selling.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. So what it could be worse. Sony could start
hiding fast travel behind an amiibo paywall.
Yes, Sony could be doing Nintendo terror tactics. So I always my weekly reminder that Nintendo is the Kaiser Soze of the gaming industry. Sony's getting all the smoke while Nintendo's just walking out of the interview room, walking straight at the end of every Nintendo Direct. So ultimately, though, I think if you want a PlayStation that costs $399 or even $499 for that matter, they got to make that cost up somewhere. They can't amortize that cost over the course of 10 years like Microsoft is trying to do with their investment into the Xbox ecosystem. So these things are going to happen, and if you don't want it to happen, I'm going to beat this drum every week. Don't buy games on day one, right? Yeah, that's it. And they won't do it. And they'll realize they're going to suffer in sales. But if we're going to spend all of this time, we've been talking about this for an hour now, and everyone's made amazing points, but we all need to, if we don't like that practice, you can't then go and buy the game. Yeah. Well, right? I'm just like you, Boom. I'm an offender, right? Because I bought Miles Morales, the $70. But for me, to be fair, I had never played Spider-Man. Yeah, well, that's different. Yeah, I get it. And then I bought Returnal, and then I bought Ratchet and Clank, all at $70. I bought Demon Souls again, $70. Right?
We're all repeat offenders. Clearly,
I'm not really one to talk, but I will be buying Ghost of Tsushima because I never played that, and the reason I didn't play it is because it came out too close to the PS5 launch.
See, that's a different story then.
Absolutely. That's a totally different story. But what I want to do is we want to welcome Special Nick in the chat. Dude, welcome, man. He's from, of course, Xbox Era as well. And Nick's he's an insider. He gets all the hot off the presses information. Love what they do over at, of course, Xbox Era. And he says, Miles, you need to speak more. And we're going to get to Miles right now because, Miles, before I get to you, anything else, Cyber, I know that you're there. Do you want to add anything before we move on to the megaton topic, of course, and that is Nether Realm for sale or not?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Sorry I was late. I'll just add something real quick. big thing that I hear a lot from the community is one, oh, but this, hey, I want to support the developers and things like that. Reminds me of when people say that, reminds me of a post I read once, which was like entrepreneurs telling their workers that they're not getting paid well. It's because nobody's tipping them. Meanwhile, they're paying them like $3 an hour. You know what I mean? It's like, no, the developers in this situation probably already got paid. Okay. They got paid, they got contracted to, or in this case, they're a first party studio. So they got paid in advance. Are there incentives if, certainly if that DLC does well or sells well, I'm sure. But the price hike in these prices in these situations, in my opinion, is just the publishers trying to make as much money back as they can. You know what I mean? So I never understand that argument. I think everybody here mentioned had all amazing points in regards to how can you have this hardware and you're charging me for me to use these features that on this console that I bought. It just doesn't make any sense. And not Everborn, Keasante mentioned earlier too. I think we as console gamers, or a lot of us as console gamers, have been accustomed to, hey, new console, we're going to pay X amount more, X, Y, and Z. For the first time in a long time, we see Microsoft switching changing the tides a little bit and making our consoles a little bit more like PC. We have backwards compatibility now, where we can for the first time play games from the original Xbox on your current console. You can certainly do that on PC, and I think we as a community, as a console community, let's say that, we need to try to change our minds a little bit on how we want to continue gaming going forth, right? Because if we keep accepting these business practices, it's going to continue. Sony's going to keep doing this business practice as long as it keeps benefiting them. Why would they change it? If they're on the green every single time when they do one of these upgrades, if they do, any additional features, and the consumer is consistently buying it, why would they stop? They're just making money. Kind of like everybody mentioned too. Look at Nintendo. They keep doing this over and over and over and over again. So if this were to happen on PC, and you can tell that community is, they're very united in a way that, hey, if you're gonna do something here on our ecosystem here that we don't like, we're not gonna support you, and we'll find ways around it. That's why on PC you don't have to pay for live. That's why on PC all these graphics upgrades are all free. All these features that your computer can do or that your PC can do, you'll be able to do, no additional charge. So yeah, going forth, I think we as a community in general, we got to kind of put some of, these console war BS aside a little bit, and just look forward to see, hey, look at these practices, really educate the casuals and say that, hey, you have this going on, maybe you should hold off here and there. But I'm never upset on what people do with their money, kind of like Miles mentioned earlier too. But we as the hardcore, whenever we have a chance, we should really try to open people's eyes the right way, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Last thing, Boom. Just I want to put something in people's heads. There's a question for the audience to ponder. Also, we got 400 plus people watching. Can we hit the like button, please?
Thank you, sir.
But this last thing before we change topics, how much of this is just inflation, right? And I firmly believe that there will come a point where Xbox first party games are $70. They're not going to stay 60 forever. They're trying to hold the line as long as they can, but they will be 70. And luckily, there's a way for us not to feel that as Game Pass subscribers. But be clear, that day of $70 games across the board is coming, and it's not just Sony doing it now. We see EA, we see Ubisoft, we see, Nintendo will do it, right? So everyone is going to do this, and I'm not saying sit back and accept it. I'm saying vote with your wallet and maybe wait, right? Because it's probably going to have bugs day one. You just wait, let them iron out the bugs, let it smooth out,
what we're
get
doing,
it on sale.
What we're doing right now, Everborn, what we're doing right now is actually helping that, right? The more you speak on it, the more you make a clear delineation between the competition being, oh, how great that Xbox gives you a game for $10 less. They continue to do that, even if it doesn't work well for their wallet, but it looks good and people keep talking about it. So they'll continue to do it. The minute we stop talking about it and people move on, you might see the first party start crawling up. I agree with you,
Yeah,
but that's just business, right?
I absolutely agree. But listen, folks, we're going to move on to the crux of the advertisement for today's story, today's show, and that is the story of NetherRealm, which you see. I recorded some gameplay today, and I had to learn the moves all over again. So you're not going to see any fatalities for the first couple of matches. I look terrible. You'll see. I start to get better because I haven't played in a while. So, but listen, Miles, this is where I want to bring you into the conversation almost immediately. You're a very good friend, my very good friend, this community's very good friend. Of course, I'm talking about Jez Corden. Was on the Xbox 2 this week with Randall Thor, who's back, which, by the way, good on Rand that he's feeling better because the guy was ultra sick. It's great to see him back doing his show. Those two guys, another show I watch each and every week. He got right there with everybody, and he was privy to a document. Now, I can't say specifically he saw the same document that was presented to me by Everborn Saga. Right? I can't say that. What I can say is that based on the information, it sounds like it's the same document that's making the rounds. Now, in this said document, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I figured, you know what, it is still news because we have some information coming from the CEO of WB saying that Nether Realm Studios is not for sale and that TT Games is staying. And you know what? We have heard businesses do this before. They don't want to let everyone know that they're selling, that they've been sold if they haven't been sold yet. This is something that's been going on. We do know that according to the document that we saw, it did in fact say that the two studios that were not a part of the conversation of keeping said studios was TT and, of course, NetherRealm Studios. Now, again, we have the new information from the CEO saying, no, that's not true. I'm here to correct that. We're not selling. But we've heard that even before Bethesda was sold, that no, we're not moving, we're not selling, and they got sold. We've seen this kind of tactics time and time again. So is it confirmation that they're not selling? Not at all for me. I'm going to be honest with you, even though it's coming from the CEO, because these CEOs have to protect their interest, and their interest is making money. Now, Miles, with all of that said, with the documentation that everyone has been privy to, I want to get into the conversation of whether or not this is one of those situations that Microsoft has to do their due diligence to grab these two particular studios. And we talked about this in the green room before we went live. When you look at Xbox Game Pass, which is literally the portfolio for Xbox, the platform itself, there are incredible amounts of games, RPGs, first-person shooters, you name it, racing games, over-the-shoulder third-person action games, dude bro games. But there are two particular genres that are missing from this portfolio, fighting being one of them. And the reason why I say Microsoft has to do their due diligence is because Sony single-handedly stole or bought the fighting game genre last generation. We saw that with Street Fighter V. We saw that with Guilty Gear. We saw that with all the deals they made with Tekken and Soul Calibur and so on and so forth. And this is we just heard Phil Spencer on a podcast talk about, yes, Matt Booty and I have talked about the importance of bringing Killer Instinct back, but we do not have a studio to make said game because we want it to be special. Well, Ed Boon in 2015 said directly to Phil Spencer, who answered him on Twitter, I would love to make a Mortal Kombat versus Killer Instinct, but I understand that it would have to be an exclusive. And Phil responded almost immediately by saying, I love that idea. Now, this is 2015. We're now in 2021. Am I suggesting for a second that this was in the works back then? No, it was just fun talk between two, important people in gaming. So then you move on to TT Games. Now, TT Games, they've put out 24 Lego titles. And quite frankly, specifically in the UK, there are major sellers every time someone releases. What did Phil just say on another podcast that they're missing? The family-friendly game developer. Now, I'm not saying none of their current studios cannot do that. I'm saying that they don't have one that could be dedicated to it. This 2-studio deal seems like it would really be a big deal for the platform, but more importantly for Xbox Game Pass moving forward. In your opinion, looking from the outside in, is this something that they have to potentially overpay to make sure that they get, like, to really, because we saw several companies overpay for studios because they really wanted said studio not to get acquired by somebody else. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If by some rhyme or reason that Sony swooped in and picked up NetherRealm, it would be a death blow in the fighting game genre moving forward, because they would literally have the entire genre wrapped behind a paywall of PlayStation. That's why I think this is super important. But what are your thoughts, Miles?
Yeah, this entire WB saga, if you will, has been really fascinating, because we saw earlier in the year that, WB was looking to sell their games division.
Right.
And I think the reality was people were looking at what that entails, looking at all of the licensing nightmare that's WB, because that's realistically the biggest problem is,
yes,
if you're an Xbox, if you're somebody looking to buy WB, you don't want to deal with the licensing. It's so much licensing, so much legality, technicalities that you have to sort through. So I think a lot of people looked at that offer and said, it's not really worth it. I'm not going to spend this much money and I don't get that much in return. So I know that was like a big conversation. If people wanted an Xbox to buy a WB. But something that a lot of people don't realize is that Matt Booty has a really close relationship with WB as someone who used to work as the head of WB Games. So he, more than probably anyone else, understands the mess that's behind buying all of WB. So that kind of whittled away, the conversation shifted and changed. And now, as you mentioned, there have been some documents floating around that have said NetherRealm and TT Games specifically have been, on the market. And people are giving Xbox a hard time online, saying Xbox has to do this. Xbox needs to do this. And the reality is there's no scenario where people at Xbox, if they have the information that this company is looking to sell, there's no reality where they're not picking up the phone and they're saying, hey, what are you guys looking for? What can we do? How can we fit in? There's no reality where Xbox isn't having those conversations at the very least. It then comes down to, as you mentioned, Killer Instinct, huge, important fighting series for Xbox. Xbox wants to make a Killer Instinct. They don't have a team. It would be such a perfect fit to bring NetherRealm on, to have them make a Killer Instinct. Too perfect. I was talking to Jeff Grubb on Xbox Chatter Days about this, and he said,
yes,
what if NetherRealm doesn't want to make Killer Instinct? And I jokingly said, then turn him down hard. Hard no. If NetherRealm is not going to make Killer Instinct, deal's off. Get out of here. Don't you dare say that. But that's another fascinating question. So with this acquisition, do we have all the logistics on Mortal Kombat? Because NetherRealm has made Mortal Kombat an incredibly valuable asset for WB. The last several Mortal Kombat games have done incredibly well, have made a ton of money, and WB owns Mortal Kombat. NetherRealm does not own Mortal Kombat, if we're looking at all of this. So then Xbox would have to do an additional deal with WB to try to buy Mortal Kombat as well, which complicates it even further. Because let's say Xbox buys NetherRealm. Do we want to live in a world where Mortal Kombat is not even made by NetherRealm? Because Xbox owns NetherRealm, but they don't own the rights to Mortal Kombat? I'd say no. So yeah, there's more stuff to figure out there. But TT Games, to your point, Banjo, people have been clamoring and screaming and yelling about a Banjo reboot for so long. I don't imagine there's any world where there haven't been hard, long conversations about how to bring Banjo back, who would do it. Rare, the obvious choice there. Rare right now has no interest in touching Banjo. Sadly.
Yeah, they don't. They don't want to. Yeah.
No, they are dead set on new ideas. They want to push new IP. They do not want to touch Banjo. So again, they have to find a team that could successfully make a Banjo. TT Games, huge history of making platformers with the Lego series. That would be another great fit in this perfect scenario. But what's the value proposition there? If there's a talented development team, that's great. Xbox looks at that. Right now, Xbox wants to make sure that anyone they invest in is going to be investing in the future of Xbox Game Studios. So despite the rhetoric that gets thrown around online, Xbox is not throwing money around at all. Xbox is being very, very specific and very particular about the teams that they bring on. So NetherRealm would be great. TT Games would be great. We have information that shows they're on the market. To throw PlayStation into the mix here, PlayStation just bought Evo. PlayStation is invested more heavily in making sure that they have the fighting game corner than anyone else right now.
Yes.
And we know that, again, if WB was on the market, PlayStation's picking up the phone. PlayStation's not going to sit by and say, yeah, Xbox, you can have NetherRealm, you can have Mortal Kombat, because fighting games to them are super important. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics. Again, to your point, they have to say that this isn't for sale until the document's signed. They're not going to say, they're not going to see anything else until documents have been signed.
Well, we won't know until Microsoft themselves say we just purchased studio set A, B, and C, right?
Exactly. So yes, them coming out and saying that isn't weird. It doesn't deconfirm anything necessarily, as you mentioned with Bethesda. I see a Special Nick in the chat saying here that he's pretty sure that NetherRealm owns Mortal Kombat. I looked it up earlier today because I wasn't sure, and the hierarchy shows that WB right now, as far as the information that I saw, has Mortal Kombat. That NetherRealm has the management rights and development rights to make Mortal Kombat exclusively, but I don't know that they own the IP outright. But again, feel free to dive into that more. That's just,
you know what? Look, I'll say this. You know, my thought and theory about this, Miles, is that this is one of those deals that you would see something like $4.1 billion for Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm, TT Games. Now, I don't know what you get with TT Games other than in the studio. And you know what we've heard. You know, again, you want to talk about studio when, you know, Avalanche, we've heard, you know, it was a possibility. IO for sure is, you know, they have that Project Dragon that there's a 10-year deal with Microsoft to make this epic adventure. You know, we heard Jez talking about it. Is it going to be an MMO? Is it going to be, you know, a World of Warcraft type game? So do they really spend the money to see if they can deliver? Because, you know, a few games that they made, even though they were great games, they didn't sell as well. Like Rage 2, for instance, and Mad Max, two fantastically developed games. I listen, we know what Microsoft wants to do. They're as important as first party is, right? We know that if you ask anybody in Microsoft, they're going to say, yeah, of course, our 23 studios is super important to what we want to do. But they want to sell you Game Pass. And in order to sell millions, you know, to keep going with the million per month that they're averaging, they have to have games of their own. Yes. Are there going to be second-party deals, third-party deals? Sure. But if they own these games, if they own a Mortal Kombat and they throw Mortal Kombat 12 in the Game Pass, if you are a said Mortal Kombat player that doesn't have a $5,000 PC and has a PlayStation, you're going to go and buy an Xbox, whether that's a Series S or X, or you're going to play on your phone. You're going to find a way to play said game because it's Mortal Kombat. Special Nick says here, if Microsoft manages to acquire NetherRealm, MK comes with them. Thank you, Special Nick. So I say again, I wasn't sure, like Miles, I wasn't sure. It's funny, the wording, because I looked it up, same thing that you did, and it says WB, but thank you for the clarification. But Miles, listen, if you have time and you want to hang out with us, we may come back to you. If you got to bounce, brother, you let me know what's good for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm down to hang out.
Okay, excellent. We love having you here, brother, and we will come back to you in a second. Wandering Dutch, let's get your opinion on this. Now, look, Special Nick specifically, and I'll mention him again because obviously he's a part of Xbox Era. I'm going to be a guest on the 24th. He said something very interesting. He said this is the season of acquisitions. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not saying it because I'm kissing anyone's ass, folks. I've talked about Special Nick when he didn't even know who the hell Boomstick was. I consider him to be an insider that I trust. As someone that is not afraid to walk the edge of madness, I've listened to his stuff. I tune in every week to the show. And when he has said stuff, I have reiterated it on my show saying that this is what I heard. And this is a person that I trust. So if he's wrong, I don't have a problem being wrong. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong more times than I'm right. And I'm okay with that. But this is not new news, folks. Satya Nadella got out there and told us. He told us to our faces. It's more cost effective to buy a said studio than to make one. And we know that they're going to continue to buy these developers, these publishers, whatever, because they want to make Game Pass the place you want to play your games on, because they have an incredible portfolio of games, and a Mortal Kombat would really, really add to that. Where do you fall on the CEO coming out and saying, no, listen, folks, don't get it twisted. It's not for sale. Do you believe me? I don't believe him. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't believe it. I've worked for PLC companies. I've worked for large organizations before that have been acquired and have done the acquiring. I know the score when it comes to acquisition. It is, in terms of business, you can't see anything, regardless whether it is a sale or not a sale, until discussions are finalized or have ended. And either way, with an acquisition or not, in those circumstances, that has to be publicly confirmed either way. You can't come out and deny that there's discussions coming out. You also can't, but you can come out and say we're not for sale. You can say those things as much as you want. It doesn't detract from the truth. I've seen, like I say, I've seen the CEOs of organizations lie through the teeth that their company's going down the drain before, when it has been. They can't say anything until it is literally public knowledge, or put the city, if you're in the UK, it goes to the public trading city. They get notified first, and then the staff get notified. So you tend to find a lot of these acquisitions as well in public knowledge. Staff get told after acquisition as opposed to prior acquisition. It'll be likewise this way. He can't say anything. So what he's going to say, much like Bluepoint did, is we're not anything. We're still very much ourselves. We're not for sale. We're not going anywhere. But we know Bluepoint's going to Sony. We know Nether Realm and TT are for sale. They just can't say anything. It's just one of those things, especially with larger companies. You have to be very astute with what you say and how you say it. And denial is always the first course of action when you come to these things. Unless there is something concrete to report, you deny. So whilst discussions are ongoing, it's always going to be, no, we're not for sale. Straightforward.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Real quick, Triumphant Streams in the chat says AT&T recently signed a cloud service deal with Microsoft. Yeah, that was for $1.4 billion with a B. And that was regarding 5G and Azure. So there is a relationship there. And again, if you think that it was just that deal that they were discussing, then you are new, because this is something we've been talking about for quite some time before the Discovery deal. And like I said, this is look, to start 2021, we have heard, and I'm not going to mention names, but we've heard numerous sites, numerous outlets, and numerous insiders say that Microsoft was looking to do a Bethesda-level publisher purchase, and that was something that was going to happen. We've heard actually people say that it's not a matter of if, it's just simply a matter of when. So again, is that the WB thing? Is that something that are we going to see Phil Spencer come out at XO or Gamescom and pull E3 2018 where he announces 5 studios one after another? I honestly don't know. Do I hope that happens? 100%. But I do want to get Kay Asante into the conversation. Kay Asante, this is something we've been talking about for now over 3 weeks. And honestly, every time a week passes, more information comes out that continues to stoke this fire. What are your thoughts on this? Is NetherRealm still a possibility for Xbox? And do you personally believe that they need to overspend to get this if they could?
Yeah, so I'll approach this. I said this on this podcast a little while ago. As far as if they Microsoft, should they, do they know, should they go reach out to them? I said this a while ago on the podcast, and I'll say it again because it really tends to always be apt. Phil Spencer said in an interview not too long ago on IGN that by the time you unwashed masses, he didn't say that part, hear of a story, somebody a crazy game you'd never seen before, and now all of a sudden it's making the rounds, or some crazy idea that this studio is being bought or that studio is up for grabs. If you've heard that, Mr. Joe Blow on internet, chances are the guy who controls one of the biggest companies in the world has already heard it and probably has already had a few meetings already and has already probably come to the decision that they will already. They just haven't told you yet, right? So as far as, and I think that was already said on this panel as well, as far as should they probably already have, right? They probably already have made that decision one way or another. Hopefully we us end users get the benefit of what that decision was sooner rather than later, right? As far as should they, is it something that they need? As a dad, I'll tell you, they definitely are missing some family friendly fare on Game Pass.
100%. Yep.
And every time they drop something new, my daughter's like all over it. The last one was the little cute cloud that was raining on everything.
The rainbow game.
She played that thing for weeks. The first 5 minutes I handed her the controller, she found a secret achievement. I'm like, okay, I know what you like, but it's few and far between. I will say with Xbox Game Pass, I buy more kid-friendly games than I do games for myself, because most of the games I want to play are in Game Pass, and most of the games that I want her to play are not, right? So chances are I end up having to buy that. So there's definitely a need to, and as Phil has said, it's all about filling out the portfolio so that everyone has something to get excited about. And a quick side note, fraud alert on Mr. Boomstick Excel. He started this whole stream by saying he's not that great, and now he is fatalitizing every character on this screen. I see fatalities left and right. Stop saying you're not good.
Wait till you see that I figured out the brutalities. Heads are going to be rolling, literally.
This dude's cutting heads off left and right. Talk about I'm not good. Anyway, so yes, they definitely need the family-friendly fare. Again, they also, as Phil is an old school gamer, as we all know, he's an old school gamer. The need for each of those genres to be represented is important, right? And he has said that, and that's the reason why Killer Instinct came back. When I first saw that they were bringing, I'm like, really, Killer Instinct? But they knew what they were doing. It is a classic franchise, right? Because before we saw what they did with Killer Instinct, I was genuinely concerned what they would do with Killer Instinct, because it worked best in its 2D format, right? I had never seen or thought of the 3D. Yes, NetherRealm had transitioned successfully, but they're the only ones that have transitioned successfully, right? Even Capcom hasn't done that, because Street Fighter is still the way it was. They keep pushing it, but they keep it 2D because every time it goes the 3D realm, it loses its steam. So when I heard Killer Instinct was going to get added that way, it looked very concerning. In hindsight, they did a great job. So clearly, they see its value, they see its importance, and they want a studio to be able to do so, right? As far as NetherRealm is concerned, the whole talk of do they own the IP, do they not own the IP? Right now, if you go and you check who owns the IP for Banjo-Kazooie, it's Microsoft, right? Is there an idea in a hypothetical world, if Microsoft were to sell Rare, do you think they keep Banjo? Probably not. They probably sell it with Banjo, right? With the Rare, right? But because of the fact of the matter is they own the company that owns that IP. So if you go and check who owns that license, it'll say WB, right? Doesn't mean that if WB is selling NetherRealm, they're not selling the MK license with it, for two reasons. One, because that's their claim to fame. You don't like sell the studio and then not give them the IP that they actually make. And secondly, all the other IPs that WB owns are very much, as Miles as astutely pointed out, are very much in licensed Michigas craziness, right? You got to deal with DC in addition to WB, except Mortal Kombat, which is just theirs, right? So of the IPs they own, of the IPs they work with, MK is the easiest to work with, right? Because it did belong to NetherRealm, and then they bought it with them, so now they own it as well, right? So if you check, it'll just say WB. When they sell it, will WB come will MK come with them? I have faith they probably will, because I don't think Ed Boon would do away with this with his prized possession that he's been working on since college, right? If NetherRealm is selling, I suspect Ed is coming with them, right? And there's no way he's leaving MK, his baby he's been working on his entire life, behind. You know, so that's absurd. So will they sell WB? No one knows. Well, there's obviously rumor mills and documentations that prove that, hey, something is afoot, right? But the idea that they could sell NetherRealm without Mortal Kombat, that is very unlikely in my opinion. Like I couldn't see that happen.
Well, they're billions of dollars in debt still, right?
Sure, exactly.
And they want to get maximum money for said product that they're selling.
Exactly.
So of course you would imagine that that IP would come with the studio, and they wouldn't, and Microsoft would in turn literally pay through the nose to get it. And I think that they should.
That's right. That's right. The only time I would see if I saw news of NetherRealm is being sold to whoever, whether it be PlayStation, Sony, or Microsoft, and they say the Mortal Kombat IP is not with them, the very next bit of news I expect to see is, and this is the retirement of Ed Boon, and he's leaving the company, and he's going off to do, because that's the only reason why I would not see him stay there, work on something else that's not Mortal Kombat related. That man has changed, his pay stub has changed multiple times, but he's always been working on Mortal Kombat. I would be surprised if he changed it now. So as far as like all that, I'm pretty confident that possibly we are going to see something soon about that, because as everyone has already really pointed out astutely, it's been documented and it's been reported all over the place, right? If we don't hear about it, if it gets sold to PlayStation or Sony or whatever, it's not the end of the world, right? Because at the end of the day, both PlayStation and Xbox have a lot of very intelligent folks working there, right? And by the time we get the information and we start going back and forth on it, they've already done that work, right? So we're the last to know all of this stuff. So chances are there are some pieces of the puzzle that we're not aware of, and maybe Microsoft is, and that's why they will choose not to, or they will choose to, right? But it's all a matter of timing, I suspect. Yeah.
No, absolutely, and great stuff as always. Let's bring Tempest into the conversation. Tempest, I know that you got back. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, obviously, everyone seems to be on the same page that when we find out, and we're Joe Schmoes on the internet, this is something that they have been working with behind the scenes for what could potentially be months. As a matter of fact, this literally could have been a conversation, and the paperwork started. The lawyers got involved in January when we first heard this. Mm-hmm. So where do you fall? How important is Mortal Kombat if they're selling it to Microsoft's future plans for Game Pass?
It's just for the characters alone. It's so it would be crazy, right? I mean, honestly.
I mean, you can logistically see Doom Guy, Master Chief. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for instance, they don't do a Killer Instinct right away. You can see Jago coming into this and fit perfectly into it.
Yeah, just the talent that the studio has for what they do. I mean, I something a lot of people don't know. That game you were just playing up on the screen there, man. Mortal Kombat, the newest one, that's done on Unreal Engine 3.
Yes,
not even 4. Wow. It's crazy. Like, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. It looks incredible. Generally speaking, all of their games, I think I said this on the show before, like transcends what other games are capable of making. Fighting games, the normies and non fighting game obsessed audience buys their stuff as well. So it would be huge. It's one weakness in Microsoft's portfolio. they absolutely do need a fighting game developer, and who better to get than NetherRealm, honestly. I mean, along with that IP, though, I mean, you are getting this studio. Ed Boon himself has said he would drop everything he's doing to make a KI versus
he
Mortal
has.
Kombat.
Yep.
And you know what? I believe him. It's just the kind of guy he is. I don't know, man. Just think about how cool that would be. I mean, you know, Killer Instinct had guest characters as well from other Xbox properties. Just imagine a Mortal Kombat cast with Killer Instinct and characters from Halo, Gears of War.
Yeah,
I mean, the Gears of War cast would
just
fit
imagine
in
Marcus
really
Phoenix, what he would do with a chainsaw to somebody in this game. Like,
oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be unbelievable. So, and you know what? In their past, Microsoft, who is probably more capable, honestly, than anybody to pick up some of these studios and didn't. Like, how different would things be? Probably if, at least I'm hoping they would be different if BioWare was owned by Microsoft right now.
Tremendously different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, they can't let this slide again. I mean. They probably have the biggest capital to do this, so why not? I mean, the CEO of Microsoft himself says we're not done yet. We're all in on gaming, and when the big guy upstairs gets involved with it, I'm pretty sure he means it. So I don't want to sit here and say no matter what the cost is, get it. But I'm kind of saying no matter what the cost is, get it. People will respond to this. They will. People that don't game know what Mortal Kombat is. So when you can sit there and say something like that is owned by Microsoft, it's like, wow. I mean, I think it goes a long way. So I think it's really important. So,
yeah. I want to bring Mag into the conversation. Mag, listen, this is, again, I don't think I could have summed it up any better than what Tempest just said.
Yeah.
I don't care what the cost is, do it. And you know what? Who the hell am I? I'm podcaster knucklehead, right? I don't make the decisions for Microsoft, but I can say he also said something super important.
Mm-hmm.
What led Sony's triumph in the last generation? It wasn't us, man. If you say it's us, then you don't know gaming. 85+ million consoles were the normies, folks. That is what makes up gaming as a whole. Okay, we the hardcore, the people on here, the 400 people we have still here watching, we're the hardcore. We're 15%. If you want to push the envelope, 20 at best, right? 20%. Yeah. 80% of the market is the normies, right? The normies, there are certain things that they know. They know FIFA, they know Madden, right? They know about Call of Duty, they know NBA 2K, but you know what else they also know? Mortal Kombat. And this is one of those instances, these same normies, right, that powered the PlayStation to victory with 114+ million consoles, they are of major importance to the conversation that we're about to have, because if you can get some of these people that are now getting hip to the digital era with services like the Netflix, like the Hulus, like the Shutters and everything else, and the Paramounts, and it just goes on and on. You tell them you can get Mortal Kombat 12 in this new service for gaming on Xbox, and you can play all these different places. Man, you are going to see an unbelievable change of the guard. What are your thoughts on the importance of Mortal Kombat coming to Xbox as an exclusive?
Well, I got to tell you one thing. You're not purchasing the game per se when you're purchasing the game. And I don't think what I mean by that is that I don't even think Microsoft is even thinking about the game. And this is something that I've always trumpeted a million times before. I paraded up and down the streets talking about this, is that you're purchasing mindshare.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you were just talking about there. When you're talking about the 85%, of the casual market that's out there and the what, they're not listening to us. Okay, they're not reading. No offense, but they're not reading Miles's articles. They don't even know we exist.
Right.
These are just parents. These are parents that walk into the store and they still call the Xbox a Nintendo, right? Because that is the mind share. You know, like you get your mom, you go, "Are you still doing stupid shows on YouTube about that Nintendo?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." You know, like they don't get it. But what do they get? They understand the mind share. Okay, the mind share. That once you get that, that is the key to everything. And now the thing is, this is a tricky situation with this WB situation. All right. Now everybody's talked about it before. I don't have to go into great detail about it. But the biggest mistake, if I'm going to take this WB situation as a larger picture, not just NetherRealm, as a larger picture, I think the biggest mistake that a lot of people have because they have too many rose-colored glasses on, is that I think that they believe that unless there's a major deal, all those IPs are coming with them for the ride. I don't know if that's going to be the case because CWB's got those things tightly wrapped around their fingers because that's where they make their money. That's where they make their money off of the properties. Okay, so unfortunately, a lot of people, except for Mortal Kombat, okay, Mortal Kombat is going to go with NetherRealm. We get that. But everybody else is thinking, man, if they purchase NetherRealm and maybe TT Games and something else, they're thinking Harry Potter's coming to Xbox.
No,
no. on a green broomstick, with an X on the back. He's not. Batman, and what else? And this
Lord of the Rings,
right?
Make Batman happen, though. Come on.
Yeah. Well, look at the thing. TT Games is a big problem. TT Games is a problem because that's the other thing. People will have that expectation, an unrealistic expectation, because most of the games, I would say 96% of all the Lego games are licensed games.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody's going to think, oh, that's it. Game over. Indiana Jones, Batman, DC, Marvel, whatever. Potter, Lord of the Rings you mentioned, et cetera, et cetera. They think that's all going to become an Xbox. No, it's not. Maybe the past IPs will, but new IPs will not. Okay, unless they've worked out some extremely complicated arrangement with WB.
Where the lawyers get involved.
That would be a hell of a thing to try to hash out. And I don't see it working that way. Now, as for NetherRealm, it is incredibly important. Yes, because once again, yeah, it's Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is huge. Now, does it have the same pull as it did in the 90s where people lined up 3 hours before the arcades opened? I don't know. I mean, I still buy all the Mortal Kombats. I play them all. I just don't know the extent of the popularity now. The movie flopped. Okay, movie sucked, in my opinion, anyway. It was like a Power Rangers movie. But anyways, that's beside the point. The thing is, so they lost out there, right? So I don't know how popular the IP is anymore, in my personal opinion. I just don't really know. But the thing is that, yeah, it's very important. But once again, like you said, Boom, what you're getting is mind share. But the thing is, NetherRealm is not a one-trick pony. Okay, I believe that they may have who knows what they want to do. Maybe they want to do something completely different. Maybe they get picked up and say, sure, you know what? We're going to do this, whatever, Mortal Kombat versus Killer Instinct. But then after that, I want to pursue something else. Because I'm sure Ed Boon probably goes to bed at night, lies his head on his pillow, looks up at the ceiling, and goes, all I've done is made Mortal Kombat for 30 years. He probably wants to do something else. I mean, other than, what's that other one?
It's funny because there's been a rumor for quite some time that Ed Boon and that team wants to make an RPG.
Okay, so maybe they can make an RPG. Maybe they can make like a Shaolin Monks successor and make
Which
it
was a dope
big
game, by the way. That game
was awesome. Yeah, it was great. Maybe they could make like a Skyrim version of it or an Assassin's Creed Valhalla version of it. You can go around doing side quests and, Scorpion can take cats out of trees for the local villagers. I don't know. Whatever the hell they want to do. But, they could do all that kind of stuff. But then you look at like what... Yeah?
Quick aside, just to inform you real quick. I'm just, while you were talking, I just looked it up.
Yes.
The best-selling fighting games of all time, number one, no one's surprised, Smash Brothers Ultimate at 23.84 million. Number 4, Mortal Kombat X at 11 million.
Wow.
Number 9, Mortal Kombat 11 at 8 million. So that tells you, of all time, that even though, yes, it's not like the arcade days, it's making more money now than it ever did.
Oh, absolutely.
At least from a gaming perspective.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around. It's not like you're buying something. Eh?
Real quick, to answer your question, good question. Street Fighter 2, number 2.
There you go.
15.5 million of all time.
It better be.
Well, there you go. I mean, it would be a big grab. But what I would like to see, I'd be more interested in to see where it takes the franchise into the future. My personal interest actually would be TT Games. I think TT Games would be to me, I wouldn't say a better get, but I think it would be a more well-rounded get. so that you can actually access that family-friendly content that is, sorely lacking. I mean, okay, there's some stuff in there, but I mean, when I go down the list and the kids are like, Daddy, what else is there to play? And I go down the list and the games are just like, why can't they just have a bunch of like easy to play, simple to get into platform games instead of those stupid floppy delivery games and whatever else? I hate that goddamn game. And then my kids right now, they're playing that Gang Beasts. I think it came out on Game Pass. They're squealing like pigs downstairs. They love it. And I'm like, oh, man, see, more games like that. More co-op games that kids can play together. That's what Lego's all about.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be Lego, but maybe they can make some other adventure. It's not like they're going to be lacking money, if Microsoft picks them up, right? So I mean, they could explore all these different options. And that's what I'm more interested in, exploring the future options of where they can go. Yes, they'll have to put in those titles to get to get people to turn around and take a look, right? But once that's happened, okay, so what next? That's going to be more interesting to me. What happens 3-4 years down the road? That's what I'm looking for as a gamer. And then I think, see, the casual market, yeah, sure, they'll be caught up in all this and what have you done for me lately and all that kind of stuff. Great. But I'm looking further down the road, and I want to see the potential of these talented studios and where they could go from there. That's why I think it would be a great get. So yes, you would get the immediate advantage of putting these big time titles in there, especially like Mortal Kombat. But then I'd like to see where they would go from that and where they could evolve in the next 3-4 years, because we all know 20 plus 5, 30, almost 30 years ago, there was a little tiny team practically working out of a garage. And then eventually they got picked up. And guess what they started making? They started making this orange marsupial jumping around. And then what did they do? Fast forward 25 years. They're one of the best developers on the entire planet. So, you could see where these things can evolve from and where they could go. And that's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Listen, before I get to Everborn Saga, before I get to Cybernox, Miles, listen, it's been 2 hours, brother. I don't want to hold you up. What I would like you to do is give us your final point on this. And please tell everyone about what you are doing at Windows Central Gaming, what you're doing on Saturdays. I think, man, you got to get more people to subscribe. You got to get more people to view. I think what you're doing, the one-on-one thing, is brilliant, because what you're doing is you're taking the skills that you have and putting them on display, which are awesome, but you're really highlighting guest whoever. And I think you've had some powerful guests. Want to get more views and more eyes over there. Talk about it, brother. Sell your brand.
Appreciate you having me on. Panel's been awesome. Chat's been awesome. It's been a ton of fun. Yeah, like you mentioned, so I'm doing most of the video stuff for Windows Central Gaming. Xbox Saturdays has been a lot of fun. I really was very thoughtful with the intimate approach. So like you said, it's one-on-one. Just get down and dirty with my guests and get to know them. And that's kind of funny enough. Like, I've made a lot of friends just by having them on the show.
Yeah.
Having them on the show.
I'm one of them. I like to consider you a friend, and it's been great to meet you, brother. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and it's been awesome, like having the show and then hanging out after the show, talking on Twitter, talking on the DMs, and yeah. So if you're not familiar with what I do, head over to the Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel. That's where you'll find most of my stuff. Yeah. If you want to harass me about my bad takes on Twitter, I'm on Twitter a lot as well. I'm very nice, even if you're not. So yeah, feel free to jump over there and hit me up. And that's about it. I'll keep it short and sweet. But
can I ask you a question? Who does the artwork for your guests? Because you have your artwork is always there.
Sean.
Yeah, Sean Labrie.
Sean Labrie. You know what? I thought that was him. That dude is amazing.
Dude kills it. Love him so much. He's been really awesome. He's been a big part of that. So yeah, like I reached out to him a while back after our first, 10 episodes, and was like, hey, I want to try to give each guest like a character. Do you want to sign up for that? Can I count on you to do that? And
that's awesome.
He's been awesome. So yeah, Sean Labrie. If you don't know him, he's big in the Xbox community as well.
Dude,
but
he
an
is
amazing artist.
Yeah. Unbelievable art. But listen, Miles, once again, brother, thank you so much for hanging out. 2 hours. Love your takes on everything. Again, I wish we could get you to talk more. It's such a big panel, but we really appreciate your time. And listen, man, we're going to help you push your brand, and we want to see more people get over to Windows Central Gaming and check out Xbox Saturdays every week. And obviously the guests that he's had, man, some real industry movers and shakers. Thanks again, Miles.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Boom. Thanks, everyone else. And I will catch up with you guys later. Have a good one.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Everborn Saga. Let's get your opinion on this. Listen, from one businessman to another, I gotta say, and again, I know that I may or may not have the right to tell Microsoft how to spend their money, but I'm looking at this from a broad perspective. When you say Mortal Kombat, it's very rare for people not to know what you're talking about. And that goes for moviegoers, that goes for people who read books, who do audiobooks, who read comics, who play games. It's going to be, again, even the most normiest of person would know what Mortal Kombat was for one reason or another. This is one of those situations that it literally kills multiple birds with one stone, because they need to keep relevant in the fighting game genre. They cannot let Sony come in and just completely take everything. And this would be a big deal on so many levels. But my question to you is, how big of a deal, and do you overspend to get this license?
Okay, so there's a few things I want to say here. It's been intimated that while this transaction is going on, that AT&T cannot sell off any assets.
Mm-hmm.
That is completely false, because we saw them just sell off Playdemic.
That's correct. Yes.
For $1.4 billion to EA.
Yes.
Now, I would also like to point to you the statement that an AT&T rep told Sarah Fisher of Axios on May 17th, which is, and I quote, "Some of the gaming arm will stay at AT&T and some will go to the new company." Right? This is a quote that AT&T had given Axios reporter Sarah Fisher. So we're all on the same page there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as to whether it is still for sale or it is not for sale, or has it been sold and not announced yet, who knows? Now, how important is it for Microsoft to get it? I still am going to contend that I think, as much as I'd like it, and as much as it would do wonders for the Xbox brand, I still think it's not. I think it's worth more to Sony than it is to Microsoft. Because again, Microsoft doesn't have a movie studio, right? So
Right.
for Sony, they can amortize that cost and say, listen, they want $4 billion for it, but I'm getting a whole movie franchise that I can produce myself and distribute myself, as well as locking up the fighting game genre for this Evo thing that I just bought, to cement that other deal. So now I can amortize the cost of that other deal there as well. So if I'm Sony, $4 billion is nothing to own the fighting game market and have a new franchise that I could potentially do better than WB did, and then use this fighting game for my Evo purchase, right? So, and yes, I don't want to go over the thing. Yes, they have the money. Now for Microsoft, they're killing two birds with one stone with this, right? If they could get TT, and who's to say even that they don't have to be sold together, right?
Right.
So it could be one gets one, one gets the other. But I think if we're talking about TT games and we're talking about Mortal Kombat, you know, Microsoft gets a Killer Instinct developer. They get the most notable one of the most notable fighting games in the
Gaming.
entire history of video games, right? And they will get a studio that can make them the kid-friendly games, the all ages games.
Yeah.
Right. So and you know, we could take it a step further and let's say, you know, maybe they buy Sega and then gives Sonic to TT Games. I'm just saying. But
real quick, Everborn. But
yes, sir.
What you just said, your last point there, real quick. Don't you think that the same can be said, just like you said, that like it was said in the past, where, you know, ZeniMax was purchased by Microsoft to stop them from possibly being bought by Tencent? Couldn't it be that that NetherRealm and the Mortal Kombat IP is so valuable to Microsoft, because this is the last piece of that puzzle that takes all of the fighting genre away from them. Like without this, they got nothing.
What? And to
all
your
they have
point,
is an IP that they have not developed. So they kind of need this to stay relevant in that area. So they actually need it as well. You know,
that is true. And to your point, you know, they need to fit. They need to fit every genre into Game Pass. So who's to say you don't get NetherRealm and then build it out? So maybe it becomes, instead of just the Mortal Kombat studio, it's the Mortal Kombat NKI and whatever else Ed Boon wants to work on studio, because they've expanded every studio that they've purchased thus far, right? So yes, that's right, and this does fill a hole. It does fill a gap if they can get it. But let me pose another question to you. Jez mentioned TT Games and
IO.
No, whoa, hang on. I'm just saying as it relates to WB.
Oh, okay.
If
NetherRealm,
yeah, TT Games and NetherRealm were in scope, what if you look at that in the inverse? And what if the recent reports that whoever at WB says no, they're not for sale and they're part of the deal? You notice he only mentioned WB and TT Games. He didn't mention he only mentioned NetherRealm and TT Games. He didn't mention Rocksteady, and he didn't mention WB Montreal. What if it's the other way around? Right? So we know this is all we know, right? Just based on what was said. May 17th, some of the studios are going, some of them are staying. Right? And we also know AT&T sells Playdemic to EA. So we know studios are for sale, right? These are just facts that we know. Now, we know in the new statement that is debunking the NetherRealm and TT Games thing, they only mention that, right? And there's two ways around that. Wandering Dutch, you pointed it out, that NetherRealm and TT Games aren't for sale the same way Bluepoint isn't for sale. I got you, right? Yeah. But it could be the other way around. Maybe they've decided we want to keep those. We want to send those over to Discovery, and we want to go with. We want to sell off. AT&T wants to keep Rocksteady and WB Montreal, and maybe this is the reason all of those games were delayed and or absent from E3, because those are the ones that are getting sold off. Now, let me ask you a question, Boom.
That's very interesting.
What would you prefer? Rocksteady, WB Montreal, or NetherRealm and TT Games?
You know what? Look, I look.
And those are just the facts, people.
and you know something, again, folks, I have to reiterate. The document that's floating around is something that was, is something that we were, had a chance to take a look at. As Jez had to take a look at. I believe Miles had a chance to take a look at it. This isn't. We're not making this up, folks. You know what I'm saying? Now, we don't know where the document came from, right? No one, there is no origin as to, I could point the finger and say, said person did it. I know that we were able to get a chance to take a look at it before anyone else. Now, why is that? Well, because, we might be small, right? We might be a smaller podcast. We might be a bunch of smaller content creators, but we just happen to get lucky. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. No one took us serious. No one did. Now, maybe the audience here did, but no one wrote a story and said, hey, Mr. Boomstick and Everyone Saga talked about this. They got a chance to see the secret scroll document. It only made news when Jez talked about it. And to Jez's point, I mean, the guy he's a boss, right? We appreciate what he does, but this has been floating around. So this isn't made up stuff here. Now, you asked a really important question, Everborn. What would I personally want? Well, you have to look at the big picture here. What does all four of these studios separately in two and pairs bring to the table? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. As great as Rocksteady is, as great as WB Montreal is, and they're great because I love their games. It does get that third person, story driven, over the shoulder kind of Sony game, right? In the Batman and the Arkham games. But if you're asking me, it's got to be Mortal Kombat and TT, because Mortal Kombat is going to bring in an audience that we saw take Sony to another level in regards to console sales, right? Not game sales, console sales, because they were the cool system. If you can lock Mortal Kombat down to an exclusive, and you somehow are able to, every time someone says Xbox, they think of Mortal Kombat, the same way they say Xbox and they think Master Chief or Gears. That is something that I think you said it. Brand recognition is, I actually think Mag might have said it. It's the brand recognition that is worth more money than the actual IP. So me personally, I walk away taking that. Listen, I'm gonna be honest. If I'm Microsoft, I buy everybody. I buy all four. That's just me. I'm being greedy. But if you're telling me I have to pick two, it's got to be NetherRealm and TT, because they bring the kid game. You bring a kid game developer where you can bring back some older IPs, potentially a Conquer, potentially a Banjo. You know what I'm saying? You can get that platformer that we're missing, that we all want, and then you get Mortal Kombat. I mean, I just think that is so, its value is just exceeds so much more than past just the billions that they're going to pay to get it. But anything else you'd like to add to this, Everborn?
Yeah, just lastly, I want to finish up just to sort of reiterate something. Like, you can, PR statements mean nothing.
Yeah, they
right?
absolutely
right?
do.
So we got a PR statement saying that they were breaking up WB Games and some would stay with AT&T, and we also got a PR statement saying that no, they weren't. So which one is it? Do we believe the May 17 statement that they made to Axios, or do we believe the one from earlier last week? Right.
That's a great point, dude. Something good on you for the professionalism of bringing in that Axios story, because something, I had it in the notes and completely slipped my mind to talk about that, because you're really onto something here. Who's doing the talking head here, and who do we believe?
Right. And listen, everything's for sale.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything
has a number.
Yeah.
Right. But no, everything does, but I'm specifically talking about with this trash company, AT&T. They don't care. They don't have any morals. No. They're in debt and they need money.
They are in debt, a significant amount of debt.
This is why they sold Playdemic for $1.4 billion, and they want to break these things up. And I am not saying Microsoft will get it. Right. I am saying the shit's for sale.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. And anything goes, because AT&T is in the selling business and the business of lying about 5G. So don't think anything is not on the table, because it is. So it's not dead to me. And I think we could be surprised, and maybe Rocksteady. What's the other one? Monolith.
Yeah, Monolith Studio.
WB Montreal. Maybe those are the ones.
Yeah.
So Rocksteady might be problematic though. They take a long.
They haven't put out a game in 7 years.
Yeah, yes. They take a long time to make a game. It makes me think that if that was the case, Xbox
and are they
might not be so.
Are they even still Rocksteady? Are the same employees still there? Are the same artists?
7 years ago, they may be like PlayStation. They may be the same company in name alone, different people in the ranks. Yeah,
yeah, it's great.
The only way you buy that is if it comes with the new Arkham game with the teams.
Yeah,
the one that
if they've already have one pre-created, they're almost done, and you buy them and you make it exclusive. That might be worth it. But like to buy them and say, okay, their next game will be exclusive, you're not going to get that for 7 years. They make amazing games, but you need to they're the kind of studio you give them time. and let them do their thing while the other.
Well, you see, that's the thing with Microsoft having so many studios. You know,
Mm.
someone said something in the chat. Let me just bring it up. Hold on a sec. Great one. Now he makes a great point. He says, "I'm tired of them buying studios, and we got to wait." I'm not sure if he meant 4 to 5 years or actually meant facetiously 45 years to get
Feels
a
that way
game.
sometimes.
I mean, listen. Here's the thing. You know,
I did respond to that as well.
It's what's interesting here is this is the you know, we got to remember that some of Sony's biggest games took 6 years to make, right? Let's not forget that you know, the Year of Dreams 2015 was just an entire show of smoke and mirrors of telling you what's going to come. You didn't get.
Part 2 started development in 2012.
Well, there you go. You know what I'm saying? So let's take it easy. And if we're going to talk one, we got to talk the other. I get Microsoft. Remember, 2018 is when they started this journey of fixing what was wrong with Microsoft.
So let me jump in there, because he does have a point. What he's saying, I don't think you can avoid this with any purchase. What he's saying is Microsoft, any studio they buy, they don't back out of their contracts. So if they had contracts to make games, a lot of these studios do have contracts to make games that are multi-plat, and then they have to finish those obligations before they can go and work on the other things.
Exclusive, whatever.
This boils down to Microsoft again, putting players first. They're not going to spite one platform in order to do something else.
As long as you get it on Game Pass, that should be it, right?
That should be the end of the conversation. I agree. Even
beyond that. Yeah. Even beyond that, the reason why they would not cancel those other contracts is because it would cost them more money to buy the company.
Yeah.
Right. If you buy the company right now and you say, okay, what do you call it? Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo both are now canceled exclusives. You got to pay the cost of what the cancellation will be, in addition to buying the $4 billion of the company. So whether it's they could and this is where I'll go on the other side. You know, folks will go, oh, Phil Spencer is just being strategic. He's not as kind as he. Sure, he's not, but he's also doing that. You know, it also works in his favor to finish all of that. It's unfortunate that whether they buy a studio or they build a studio, games take a long time to make. You know, the only way that they could speed up the process is if they found a team the size that they're making like The Ascent, right, and then buy them right before they release that, and then make that an exclusive. But you know that they don't think exclusives are as important as it being day one in Game Pass, and they're right. You know, they're right. Look at what do you call it? Outriders. It's not exclusive, but it was basically an Xbox game if you really look at it, because everybody played it on Game Pass mostly.
Plague's Tale Requiem.
Exactly. Yeah. Plague Tale. That's right. I think Game Pass was literally it's saving grace. You know,
it is absolutely. But you know what? Let's get Cybernock's final opinion, and then we're going to get everyone out of here. Folks, we're 2 hours 15 minutes in, and I figured we were going to go to a little extra because not only did we have a monster panel, we welcomed in Wandering Dutch here today, and of course we had Miles Dompierre. Cybernox, what for you looking back? Now we know what your connection is to Batman, so of course you'd love to see Rocksteady come to Microsoft. And I say this right now: if they did get Rocksteady, they wouldn't be bringing Batman along, and that's perfectly fine, because what you do with that is, we know they're currently in bed with Disney, obviously from the Sea of Thieves DLC that came with that no one ever could have imagined 1,000 years what is going to happen. They could easily say, hey, listen, Rocksteady is a first party. We want to license out superhero, whatever, make a Black Panther game, make a Punisher game, make a Ghost Rider game. You know what? Go crazy and, make a Sons of Midnight. Game where you get Moon Knight, you get Ghost Rider, you get all 4 other characters from the Sons of Midnight, and you with Blade, and you make a crazy story, and you let Rocksteady take 6 years to make it. Who gives a shit? Because they now have 28, 29 studios. But getting back to the importance of Mortal Kombat, where do you sit on the importance of this coming to Xbox?
I'm the same mindset as Kay Asante. I think he hit the nail right in the head. When it comes to Microsoft, I think even Phil Spencer has mentioned this in a couple of interviews, that he would love to bring, you know, Killer Instinct back and the fighting genre right now is something that they're lacking in their portfolio, you know. And this will Nether Realms coming to Xbox would be 100% a win for Xbox. Can you imagine, you know, Mortal Kombat being synonymous with Xbox? It would be a win for sure. Not only that, it gives them more iconic characters. I think we've mentioned here on the show before that one thing that Sony does have on Microsoft is they have this ability to make their characters memorable. You know, they make these iconic characters that you, when you look at them or when you think of them, you also think of Sony. And to get that with an IP as strong or as world known as Mortal Kombat is just, you know, is just a big win. And TT Games makes perfect sense too. Phil Spencer, once again, has mentioned how much he would like to keep diversifying their portfolio when it comes to Game Pass. And family-friendly game is something that he consistently mentions in every single interview. He always talks about how he wants to get more family-friendly games on Game Pass. And, you know, Keosante just mentioned how hard it is sometimes to find something for you know, the younger generation. And yeah, it would just make perfect sense. Obviously, you guys know my love and appreciation for Batman, but in this case, I think NetherRealm and TT would make the most sense. Not only that, it's just kind of what he said. It's probably one of the last, not the last, but Sony has kind of taken over the fighting genre, and you know, you have NetherRealms and Mortal Kombat here, you know, just waiting for it to get acquired. And kind of like what you guys mentioned before too, this deal they probably already foresaw this, you know, a couple months ago or a few years ago, and this has probably been in the works for a little bit. So it would just make perfect sense. And if you get a studio like NetherRealms now working on Killer Instinct 2, and you can think about the potential crossovers and, you know, special characters that will come into with all, you know, the Bethesda acquisition and things like that, like whatever, they can literally have their you know, whatever it would be their all-star game or Smash Brothers, but on Xbox's level, you know, between all the Bethesda's characters now, all the Xbox characters, and you bring in Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct, man, it'd be wild. I think it would be the right move for them. Yeah, right. It would be something
amazing.
Yeah, it absolutely would. But listen, I want to make sure I got everybody's opinion on this. I want to get everyone out of here. Obviously, this has been a long show, but you know what? This has been everyone had such an incredible point of view. Real quick, Fun Speculation drops a $5 super chat, brother. Thank you so much for that. He says, love the shirt, boom. And now you know, knowing is half the battle. NetherRealm, let's go. Listen, G.I. Joe, my favorite toy of all times. So much so that this 50-year-old man is still collecting the classified line, which I'm going to be displaying. They look so good. I mean, I remember them when they were 3 3/4. I got my 12th birthday, folks. I got my first G.I. Joe's at 3 3/4. I got the Vamp, and someone had stolen Clutch. It's back in the days from Playworld. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember what Playworld was. So they wound up letting me pick a figure. I picked Stalker and Bazooka. Those were my 2 first G.I. Joes and the Vamp vehicle. And I've been a G.I. Joe, folks. I'm going to tell you a little secret here. Is the reason why I became a police officer, because I wanted to help people. That toy meant so much to me as a kid. Is what literally made me want to grow up to be a police officer and serve the people, which I did for 21 plus years. But again, nobody wants to know about that. Everybody wants to get on out of here. It's been almost 2.5 hours. Let me thank everybody. First of all, big shout out. Man, we had, talk about the incredible chat. We had over 400 people here today. We had Special Nick from Xbox Era. We had, of course, let's see I know I'm forgetting a bunch of people that were here, but listen, everyone that comes to these shows, you got to understand, this is a very small channel. I know people say, no, you're almost at 10,000. You're not small. Trust me, YouTube is vast. And the fact that we can say that we have over 400 people here almost every time we do a show is extremely humbling beyond words. And I want to thank you so much for that. Of course, super chats that came in, we had a lot of them today. Thank you so much for the generosity. But let's get everyone out of here. I'm going to start first with our newest member, Wandering Dutch Brother. We got to get your channel to hit 1,000 subs. What you do with this community is nothing short of incredible, which is why you're a part of this show. We love how you interact with them. We love how you interact with everybody on this panel, and it's an honor and a pleasure to work with you now each and every week. Tell everybody about your brand, brother. Sell it, and tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, most definitely. First of all, a huge shout out to my panel member Pat or Patya, who just did a nice 7.5 hour charity stream on Saturday and smashed through his target of €500 for those with diabetes.
I saw that. So, that was great, dude. Yeah.
It was awesome. Managed to get it through, and a huge shout out to one of your original community members there, who's come over and showed his support with a huge donation. Gary Dudell, who showed up with a $43 donation there as well towards the target.
Thank you, Gary,
so
for
absolutely
that. Appreciate it.
Massive thank you for that. But yeah, that was a huge success. This week, you can find Midweek Mix-Up on YouTube, of course, on Wednesday. And this week's special guest is Colt Eastwood, returning back into the mix-up.
Very nice.
So that should be fun. And again, that's for the Americans. That's 2 p.m. EST. And any Brits that are still awake and watching, that's 7 p.m. British Standard Time. So
now, real quick before we let you get out of here, talk about your birthday stream, because I wanted the anniversary stream, because I'm going to be popping through. We got a lot of people, a lot of guests coming through for that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So on the 22nd, we have our 1 year anniversary stream for the show. So eventually hit that 1 year mark. It's been a wild 1 year and a lot of big guests over the year. And next week is no different. We'll confirm the exact names at the time. Boomers, of course, joining us. But we have 12 special guests rolling through over the day so far. And still a few more to be announced. But 12 rolling special guests that are going to be dropping in and having some fun, talking gaming, and just reminiscing over the past year of gaming as well. So it's going to be absolutely awesome. That's on, again, 2 p.m. EST, but that's on Thursday of next week, so the 22nd. I can't wait for that show. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so... I don't know how I'm going to manage that with a hosting or rolling in people in and out every 2 minutes, but yeah, it's going to be fun. So there's 7 panel members and then 3 rolling guests at a time. So it's going to be
fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But listen, having the 1 year anniversary of the show, it's a big deal. And we're happy to have you a part of this panel each and every week. Of course, we'll go next to Kay Asante. Now, Kay Asante, you've been doing some incredible things with your brother Everborn Saga. On the Real is a fantastic show. I just, you guys get into it. You get into it quite often.
We have fun. That's
have
right.
fun.
And this week's going to be even better than most. I'm sure this
things.
week's going to be amazing.
But talk about the other show, the video game show that I want to see people tune into. Like I said, what you guys are doing are fantastic, and love to see more people view each and every week.
Appreciate you, Boom. Thank you. Well, first off, thanks to all the panel members. I love you guys. Always bringing the science and the truth to these topics. This is always great. If I'm not on the panel, I'm at least in the chat listening intently and going, "Yup, that's right. Indeed, speak on it." Indeed. So thank you guys so much as usual. As Boom has said, yes, we do 2 shows. On Thursday, this Thursday, we'll be on the Real on Mr. Everborn Saga's channel. It's going to be some heat rocks. We expect to see a lot of hot takes. We expect, because we have 2 very, very important shows 2 very important topics to discuss. The ending of Loki. And Mr. Everborn, you're on mute if you want to chime in. And we also wish to discuss the
Black Widow,
which we have not spoken to each other about how it was. He tried to talk to me on Twitter. I'm like, nah, blah. We'll save that one for the show. So it should be interesting. I hope we get some guests. I don't know what, maybe King. I don't know who we'll talk to, but it is a hot button topic, and I suspect we'll all want to have some conversation. I'm looking forward to that this Thursday. And then on Saturday we have the Gaming Circle podcast. Last week, Mr. Everborn unfortunately wasn't able to join us because he had family things, but I was lucky enough to be joined by one of my oldest friends. I've known him for many years, but he also happens to be a veteran developer with many years of experience, sharing stories. He worked at Epic, he worked on Fortnite, he worked on, he worked at People Can Fly, so he has experience with all those teams. Lots of cool, interesting stories. Please check it out if you haven't had a chance to already. As one would know, until you reach a certain set of followers on YouTube, the URL is absolute trash. So just follow me on Twitter. And of course, as the slanderer himself has beaten me to death, I have changed my Twitter handle so that the underscores no longer appear anywhere. Now, it happens to it happens to now be TKO, O being 0 because PlayStation wants to be special. ASANTE on everything, both on Xbox, on PlayStation, and on Twitter.
Everborn beat you down, bro.
Oh, the slanderer gets his way. What are you gonna?
And what does this tell you, kids? Negative reinforcement works. You just have to.
Annoyance is work, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe.
You shame your way to your loved one's success. That's
Indeed.
it.
So thank you guys all for watching. Thank you guys all for being here, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Tempest Son, let's get you out of here. I know you're busy with the kids. You obviously, he has a YouTube channel, folks. That's right. The guy that snipes people. Yeah, he actually does. And he builds Gundams, and he builds them well. He has patience of a saint. That's why he's a sniper elite. There you go. One and one works with the other. But what he does is really incredible work, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of dedication. And he's put out a couple of videos. You got to subscribe. If you appreciate model building, if you like Gundams, you definitely got to check out his channel. Talk about it, Tempest.
I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. Unfortunately, the whole family's been sick, man. It's like, I don't know. It's like we had the plague over here or something. But yeah, I'm looking to get back into it real soon. I do have a couple videos up, so yeah, if you want to check them out, let me know what you think of them. I tell you what though, I've been sick, but I don't know. It allowed me to spend some like gaming time, with the wife and stuff. Playing Black Desert again. I've been playing Scarlet Nexus. I did this the last time I was on the show, but if you are on the fence about Scarlet Nexus, just buy the damn game and play it.
It's amazing.
Very good.
It is amazing.
I love it.
I love it so much. It's so good, and I'm just thankful that those types of games are, again, coming to Xbox. Thank you. So yeah, I've been having a blast with that. So just once again, it was good being on the panel with everybody, and have fun, guys, and get some gaming done or something.
Nice. So Everborn Saga, let the slander run free. Talk about Everborn Saga. It's
catching on, man. It's catching on. The slanderer, I'm telling you.
Slanderer. I like it. Everborn the Slanderer Saga. I think I just made a new name. I like it.
I'm telling you.
Talk about your brand, brother. Talk about the two casts that you're on outside of this one, and where can people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Okay, TK0. Listen, here's the thing. You can find me everywhere at Everborn Saga, but today I want you to go on youtube.com/Everborn Saga, and you'll find the YouTube channel that I'm trying to build, and it's there to not only house our movie and TV show on the reel, but it also has dev diaries for the game we're working on and any trailers that we do for the comic books that we produce. And very big announcement, Everborn will be at NYCC this year. I just this weekend got the word from the folks at Reed Pop that we will have a table there. So, and by we, I mean me, because I'm a one-man show. And my all the artists and people that I work with, they are not in the country, so I can't have them come. So I'll be at the table. It'll just be me signing copies, and the books from the Kickstarter. I just checked UPS, and they're currently in New Jersey, which means they will be to me by the end of the week, which means they will be to all of you wonderful Kickstarter backers sometime next week. So, and then we will officially release Ariel's Adventure #1. And I'm going to be doing a maybe a stream on the channel where I show off what our next series is going to be, which
Nice.
hopefully will be ready in time for NYCC, New York Comic Con, maybe the second largest comic book convention in the country.
Yep.
Maybe it's the third because you got WonderCon is pretty big. So, but anyway, big things happening with Everborn. Lots of releases on the horizon, and I thank everybody. Go, please check out Everborn Saga on Twitter. Check out Everborn Saga on YouTube. Send me a friend request on Xbox, PlayStation, or Steam. Also at Everborn Saga. And also, please, 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 if you want to get into Everborn Saga and you want to get like some of the merch, like the posters and wall art and shirts and hats that you see, you can go to everbornsaga.com. So, yeah, big things happening. And I cannot wait for Thursday. But even more, I can't wait. There's a lot of gaming stuff to talk about on Saturday on the Gaming Circle podcast on Mr. Zero's channel.
Nice,
so,
nice.
There you go. See,
Middle-aged gamer guy. Let's get you on out of here, brother. You were. You know what? I think that you're spent because you were a little reserved than normal. I think the Italian win has sucked your soul, but we'll get you back here full time next week. Listen. Tell everyone about what other shows you're on, and if people want to strike up a conversation, potentially get into an argument with you, how do they do that?
Well, you know what? I wasn't actually too reserved. I was just trying to keep a little quieter because Miles was on the show. I didn't want to scare him off forever. But you know, I got my yelling in the first half of the show. But anyhow, guys, it was a pleasure as always. It was a great show. And you know what, Kay Asante, I listened to that show that you had with your friend there. It was very captivating listening to his story. Like his life story was so interesting going from country to country and all that. It was great. But anyways, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, Middle Age Game Guy. That's with a GY at the end, of course. On the PlayStation 5 and on the Xbox Series X, you can find me at all one word, all capitals, because I don't know how to be quiet. I am the Meg. And yes, you will find me here every Monday evening at 7 p.m. And you know what? Maybe I'll do a little more talking. I just got to wait for Sony and Nintendo to piss me off a little more. But anyways, you'll find me here on Primetime Gaming every single Monday night, Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can find me with Noof Nukem and Titan Drago on Gaming After Dark. And actually, in a couple of weeks from now, I just got word that I will be doing a show with Mav, Mr. Fun Speculation himself. And I'll be doing a show with him as well. So, and actually, One Bad Mother, who I hope he's still in the chat. Great dude. I did a show with him last week, as a matter of fact. And awesome dude, and had such a great time. So, anyways, guys, it was a pleasure as always. Let's hope for some big news for next week. I'm already looking forward to the show. Everybody, have a great night.
Yeah, well, thanks so much. And last and no way least, the Cape Crusader himself, Cyber Knox. Talk about where they can reach out to you, strike up a conversation, and also talk about your YouTube channel. But more importantly, let's learn a little bit about the Xbox Game Pass Club you got going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I'm glad to be here. Glad always to make it here on Monday evenings and just talk gaming with you guys. Cybernox on Twitter, everywhere gaming, guys. If you guys ever see me on Xbox Live, just hit me up. If you ever see me playing anything that's multiplayer, I'm definitely down to, pretty much play and with anybody on the community and things like that. Cybernox on YouTube and also Xbox Game Pass Club. I know it's a mouthful. I got to work on that. On YouTube as well, where we go ahead and try different games, different genres, trying to build a little community over there so we can go ahead and, start playing as a community, pretty much a game book club, but for Game Pass. It's pretty awesome. So can't wait for the conversation to continue next week. Hopefully we'll have some great news. And I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and real quick, just to give you the heads up, next week, our special guest is going to be the community good guy known as Benji Sales is going to be joining us to talk about potentially Xbox Game Pass news and whatever else we can get. Obviously, I haven't written the show yet, folks. We're still a week out. But yeah, Benji Sales is going to be joining us and giving us his extreme knowledge of the industry. But thanks again so much for tuning in for this extra long version of today's show. Hopefully you hung around enough to enjoy it and you hit the like button. And of course, I'll close out today's show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules. And I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest and hopefully shorter version of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.